Coming up on this program, we show you how to get connected. Find out how to choose an internet service provider. Discover the newest form of communication, electronic.
Ways down and ready to ride. One by one, billion by billion, and holding up half the sky. Raise your hand if you're ready and willing. If you know it's time. Time for a girl on time. Time for a girl on time. Time for
Hello, 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 everybody, new and old. I hope everybody's doing well today. This is part 3 of what probably will become a many-part series. And I guess I should change the title. It's not a divorce per se. It is a custody battle over 2 young children. But I did link parts 1 and 2 in the description of this video. If you haven't caught those, you may want to, because we are jumping right in with no what happened last night replay. Thank you all for being here, by the way. I really appreciate it. And I mentioned in the comments or in the chat, but I'll say it now. This case has been continued until Tuesday, when I will capture it live again, and then we'll probably watch some of it Tuesday night. So yeah, cut the small talk. We need to hear from St. Jacob. That's right. And also, I'm out of cream for my coffee. I'm drinking it black with sugar. Ugh. I suppose the caffeine value is there still, but ugh.
Just a moment. We're back in the record.
Okay. Ms. McNiff, next witness.
Call my client.
Okay. Sir, if you would, raise your right hand. We'll have you sworn in, then we'll proceed.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Go ahead, Ms. McNiff.
Thanks, Your Honor. Jake, do you live at 88 South La Vista Boulevard in Battle Creek?
That is correct.
And how long have you lived there?
Since early October 2023.
And did you purchase that home?
That is correct.
And did you provide copies of photos of your home?
That
To
is
me?
that is correct.
And we have already admitted those as our exhibit number 2. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
And did you take those photos?
I did.
And I'm handing you those now. And can you tell me what those are photos of?
Do I show them or just tell you?
Just in the order.
A photo of my entryway and a bench where we can sit and take shoes on and put them off, in our coat rack. Our remodeled kitchen, kitchen sink, dishwasher, fridge. How I keep it. Another angle of the kitchen. Same thing. Remodeled half bath. With, again, all brand new. I got a picture of myself and the boys, and actually the way the boys are situated in the picture is like the direction of the room. Like Asher's on the left, his room's on the left, Sam's on the right, his room's on the right. And then in the early stages of Sam's bedroom, which now looks actually quite a bit different, more toys, rug, decorations and such.
Is that a fair representation of your home?
That is, yes,
And you keep it as neat and tidy as the pictures indicate?
that is correct.
I know, I understand that we're here. It's so much. It is so overkill. It is so overkill.
And so where do you work?
I work for the Canadian National Railroad.
And what do you do there?
It ranges. Most of the time, I am the track inspector. From Climax to South Bend, I cover 56 miles of track. Other times I am the shop foreman out of Schoolcraft who would be responsible for maintaining that 56 miles of track. And then very rarely am I a trackman who would be just like the general laborer, a part of that shop with a foreman over him.
And there was some testimony earlier about the bumping system due to seniority. Are you currently bumped into a lower job?
That is correct. Currently, right now, I am the assistant foreman. I was bumped by an individual with higher seniority about a month ago.
Does that change your pay rate?
It does change my pay rate.
And how often do you go back and forth between track inspector and foreman?
That usually happens 2 to 3 times a year. It's becoming less the more seniority I get. Guys retiring, you move up the seniority roster, you get bumped less.
And what is your current rate of pay?
It's 35.26, I believe, an hour. I could be off by just a little bit there.
Okay. And do you know what that changes when?
How you make $35 an hour? I'm sorry. What? 2 incomes. Where? How? Oh, because he wouldn't share the money. And he wouldn't pay the bills, is what she said.
When you're a track inspector?
Track inspectors right now are $39.10 an hour.
So if you go to, I've given you some exhibits.
But remember, he's working up to 36-hour shifts and he's getting double time on some of those. Also, I was married and we never shared bank accounts. Never once. We never had a joint bank account. We never shared a bank. We never even shared banks. We banked at different places. And we sort of arranged it in our own way. Like he paid rent and I paid for all the food and house stuff. Which worked until then I didn't have a job and I was like, well, hold on. You know, but anyways, so I get it, but also like it has to be a good working balance for people. And yeah, my ex had great benefits as well. Same as this, similar situation, union, working lots of hours.
And they are defendant's exhibits. There is a pay stub that is marked as defendant's exhibit B. Correct. And if you can look at that, do you know, is that a pay stub?
Oh, wait. Sorry, I'm confused. My ex-husband's benefits don't cost them anything. But again, I live in Canada, so things are different. But yeah, no, the benefits don't cost anything. Also, I imagine our time off, like my ex-husband, by the time, I think he's getting 10 weeks paid vacation, full pay vacation, still holding his job every year at this point. So, like, that's, and full like medical and dental benefits, of course, which I'm thankful for, not for me because I don't get any, but for my daughter. So that's good.
From when you were an inspector or from when you were a foreman, can you tell?
I cannot. I thought usually the pay rates is usually on here. Maybe on new ones.
Okay.
You cannot tell from this one.
Do you know and you also have a W-2
Yes.
that's been marked, I believe, is defendant's exhibit A.
Correct.
And what was your gross income for 2023?
Gross income for 2023 looks like $97,577.
In 2023, did you work primarily as an inspector or as a foreman?
Oh, that's very good money. 10 weeks is not even something you can wish for. That's negotiated into their contract. Starting, and it was 4, then 6, and he's nothing special. He works in a dairy moving milk around a freezer. But yeah. And everybody gets those weeks off. So what that means is there's actually a lot of movement for part-time people to start earning seniority, because you have to cover fucking literally people being off all the time.
I would say primarily as the track inspector.
And did you have a lot of overtime in 2023?
I would say 2023 was a pretty high year, I think, for overtime.
Do you anticipate making approximately the same amount of money?
I would approximate that I would be working less overtime
Did
this
okay.
year.
Did you have, and if you look back at your pay stub, do you pay health insurance for the children?
I do.
And how much do you pay per pay period for health insurance?
It's roughly $155 a month.
Okay. Do you have union dues?
I do.
And how much are your union dues?
Almost $120 a month.
And do you have any mandatory withholding for retirement?
I do.
And how much is your mandatory withholding for retirement?
It's around $350 a month.
Mandatory, I hate. Actually, the government had mandatory withholding for your retirement that I fucking hated as well, which meant when I was a temp employee, I made more money than when they hired me permanently, because they're like, no, you have to save this money. I was like, oh, I need that money.
And how long have you worked for the railroad?
Since June of 2018.
And before that, what did you do?
I served in the United States Air Force for 8 years.
What did you do in the Air Force?
I was a civil engineer.
And did you receive an honorable discharge?
That is correct.
Were you ever disciplined while you were in the military?
Not any discipline that would affect a good conduct medal, just, growth, things you can do better, more of a person-to-person counseling, never like a disciplinary.
Did you receive any awards while you were in the military?
I did. I received a large handful of awards, actually. I've got a couple achievement medals. I've got probably a handful of Airmen of the Quarter. My most distinguished one is probably Airmen of the Quarter for the entire U Safety Command. It is an award that only 36 airmen will receive a year out of 257,000 active duty. That same year, I actually won 3 out of 4 of the Airmen of the Quarter for that year. And then just the countless other awards and decorations that I received for the deployments and tours that I was on.
Why did you leave the military?
The deployment rate. And then just the desire to start a family. I knew that deploying every 10 months is not only hard to, even begin a relationship when you're deploying like that, but then to want to build a family and raise kids under those conditions is not something that I wanted to be a part of.
And I neglected to ask you a question regarding your income. In 2023, did you receive back pay?
That is correct.
And how much did you receive for back pay?
I believe it was roughly $15,000.
And is that included on your W-2?
It is.
Would that be included in the total for your W-2 for 2023?
Is it included, or is it amended into the year that it was supposed to be received? Either way, child support, I understand why this guy wants 50-50 custody, but in reality, I don't know that he has a job that he can have 50-50 custody. the only reason my ex-husband and I were able to do it is because I bent over backwards to allow him to work around his schedule. If you choose not, if like a court can't make somebody bend over backwards and do crazy scheduling.
I believe so. I can't.
Did you receive that back pay in 2023?
I actually believe we received that. I know we received it in January of 2023. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And can you explain what that back pay was for?
Our contract was expired. It took, I think, 3 or 4 years for us to agree to a new contract. It ended up going all the way to Congress, I believe. And then so once that contract was finally signed, all of our back pay was rated. The pay raises we would have received in 2020, 2021, 2022, all those pay raises, that money that we missed out on, we received as back pay once that contract was finally signed.
And that was only $15,000 for 4 years. That wasn't really a great.
So would that roughly have increased your pay in each of those years by about 5,000?
It would be close. I know there were certain years, so I believe there was like 2.5% one year, 4.5% the other year. So there would have been some difference, but in total, yeah, it was 15,000.
Okay. Do you currently have any childcare expenses?
I do.
In childcare expenses that you pay through your child support?
That's correct.
Oh no, buddy, you don't. What do you? Your mom takes care of these kids. She told us yesterday you don't have any childcare expenses, sir.
Are you incurring any childcare expenses for when you have the children during your parenting time?
I do. I've paid for all of the kids' activities since the temporary order. I've paid for tennis.
Those are not childcare expenses. Look at Miss McNiff's face. She's like, oh, he fucking doesn't understand. Oh. Those are extracurriculars, St. Jacob. And good for you. You made $97,000 last year. I would hope that you would pay for your child's activities. I have to tell you, that to me is like par for the fucking course. Good job. Wow. Keep doing it. Why are you complaining?
And let me stop you because
child care,
child care, not child expenses.
Understood.
Okay.
Child care. No, I have no child care expenses.
If you had the children on an alternating week basis, would you incur any child care expenses?
I would not.
And why is that?
My mother would be available, or a family that would be willing to watch the kids as they always have at no additional charge cost.
When you and the defendant were living together, did you have any child care costs?
We did not.
And why is that?
Both of our parents agreed to basically watch the kids without charging. I know originally, so before Asher and Sam, I believe Meg did pay her mom a rate for watching Noah. Once Asher came into the picture, her mom said she would feel guilty if she charged us and my mom did not. So it just resulted in neither of them charging us, I guess.
And are you currently paying for childcare expenses through your child support?
I am.
And do you know what the cost of the child care for both of the children is per month?
I believe it's roughly for each of them around $200 for each of them, or per child.
Per week?
Correct.
Okay, so about $400 per week. Is that what you're paying, or is your understanding that's what the cost is?
That's what I'm paying.
Okay, so the cost is more than that?
Yes.
The cost is more than $400 a week for childcare for 2 children. That's $1,600 a month, I guess so. They're young children. I mean, the younger you are, the higher the level of care. But, I don't understand.
And you had the children for spring break this year?
That is correct.
And did you have a vacation plan?
That is correct.
Did that plan change at some point?
It did.
So what
But he's saying that's his half. So he's implying that it's $800 a week for daycare for the children. Which doesn't, like, that's what doesn't jive. Like, if he's saying I'm covering the entire childcare cost for her, which I wouldn't understand, then it just, and we're also talking, here's the other thing, guys. If you have 2 children and you have a home that's available to do the childcare in, you'd be better off hiring a live-in nanny or a nanny at that point for young children like that. It's not that they're going for preschool and that kind of stuff. If you're talking about young children, you may as well hire in a nanny at the same price. I just think, I don't know.
what was the original plan?
That we were going to go to Great Wolf Lodge for the first 2 days. We were going to visit an aquarium. And then eventually I wanted to take them over to Ann Arbor, and I was going to do some day activities with them in Ann Arbor.
And when did that change?
So the aquarium that I originally wanted to go to was sold out all weekend. I didn't foresee that happening. I didn't pre-purchase tickets to the aquarium. So we ended up doing the Children's Museum in Chicago instead of the aquarium. And then I did not end up taking them over to Ann Arbor so that Asher could go to his school activity that Saturday instead of going to Ann Arbor.
So when did your vacation start? Your spring vacation with the kids?
We left Tuesday, first thing in the morning.
And what did you do on that Monday?
I worked that Monday.
And had Ms. Wenzel requested a midweek parenting time visit during that week?
She requested, I believe, also on Monday when I was at work. I believe I received that message.
Okay. And did you come back between Tuesday and Friday night to Michigan?
I never returned.
Or to home?
No.
And did she have an opportunity to see the children when you returned?
She saw them. So she had 2 FaceTime calls with them during the spring break week. And then we seen her on Saturday at Asher's Easter event at his school.
And you advised her that there was going to be an Easter event at the school?
That is correct. And we actually also had one planned for the next Sunday. So she would have seen them Saturday and Sunday. But the information that I got off the website for Woodland had previous year's Easter information still on the website. So there was a miscommunication with an Easter egg hunt on Sunday that never came to fruition.
And what was the activity on Saturday?
It was they had a series of booths set up of different activities for the kids that can earn prizes. There was some face painting. It was like a pie walk. There was just a series of activities for the kids to enjoy for Easter, to include ending in an Easter egg hunt.
And how long did Ms. Wenzel spend with the children on that Saturday?
I believe it was roughly 3 hours.
Okay. Are you interested in having a midweek visit required during each of your spring break? When you have it, she would get a midweek. When she has spring break, you would get a midweek.
I mean, in the perfect world, we could be able to co-parent in such a way that we could enjoy spring break together with the kids. That would be in a perfect world. But if that's not a possibility, then I would want the kids to be able to enjoy a spring break without having to go to and from. I would want that for the kids.
There were questions with your sister and her husband regarding whether you and Megan had watched their daughter Aniston before.
That's correct.
Had Ms. Wenzel ever watched Aniston by herself?
Negative.
How long were you and Ms. Wenzel together? When did you start dating?
We met in middle of July of 2018. I believe our first dates was soon at the end of July, I believe, of 2018.
Okay. And when did you start residing together?
Let's take bets. How quick did they move in together? I bet it was within 3 months. That's what I am thinking. I don't know. Also, I just saw Megan smile. It was at something Leslie said, but that's one of the first smiles we've seen out of Megan. Jinx, 3 months. 2019, early in the year, but they met in July, so you think like 6 months. That's awesome. See, and I know it can work. My ex-husband and I we went on 3 dates and then we moved in together. And then I was pregnant within 6 months, but we only had 1 baby. And we were together for like 10 years. Ish. Not quite 10. I just thought about that. Okay. Here we go. Let's see.
It's also hard to say. I know there was a period of like I would stay the night, I would go home. It was always like, are you going to stay tonight or are you going to go home? When I started permanently residing there and like moved my things in, I believe was sometime in the spring of 2019.
And when did you separate?
July or early July of 2023.
What caused that separation?
Our final conversation was we were basically talking about the wedding, and then she stated to me that that she cannot see herself marrying somebody that she does not have a joint bank account with. And so she said, if I'm not willing to have a joint bank account, that I need to spend the rest of my time residing in that house, finding alternative living arrangements.
And were you unwilling to?
But that sounds like a very good pre-marriage phone or pre-marriage conversation. Why can't you have a joint bank account? You can have your own bank accounts too, but you can have a joint one. Have a joint one that you both put money into. See, that's a weird red flag. If I was dating somebody and we were gonna get married, and I was like, hey, yeah, let's get a joint bank account, and they're like, absolutely fucking not, never, ever, ever. I'd be like, oh, hold on, sorry, I didn't talk about this much earlier because I didn't think this would be a problem, but what? Why? I'm not asking for all your money. I didn't even ask for the bank account where you get all your money. See, you have to be thoughtful about this. She didn't say, like, to me, it sounds so simple. Oh, babe, you want a joint bank account? Of course, babe. Of course. Again, if she says, I want Now, here, if she says, I want the bank account where all your deposits go, now we have some questions. Why? Are we sharing all deposits of all of it? You know what I mean? I don't know. In Canada, it's very, very, very easy to share a bank account. It doesn't, seems to me very odd that you would refuse to do that. It's not like saying you can't have your own bank account. And you guys have so many banks. You could bank wherever you want. Like, I'm not even suggesting have her have access to all of his banking information. Open a new bank account in a new bank together. It's perfect. Let's go do it, honey. Let's go get Starbucks and go to the bank and open a new bank account. It'll be fun. That sounds like a fun day, I guess. You're allowed to have multiple bank accounts, aren't you? Even if you're on benefits here, you can have multiple bank accounts in multiple banks. You can't get deposits into all of them from the same thing. That's obvious, but you can have as many bank accounts as you want. They cost money. And yes, my bank account is empty. Unfortunately.
Have a joint bank account?
I told her that it's something that I would consider in the future, but at this very moment, I would prefer not have one. But I told her in the future, but I also told her at that exact same time that I'm willing to come together.
Listen, I worked at a bank for 4 years. I know that you can get burned that way. Did you not hear what I said? Open a new bank account that doesn't have direct deposits going into it. You both put money in and you watch it go out together. You discuss what it's spent on together. It's a test. It doesn't actually put you at much risk, especially if you set it up where it can't have an overdraft. And you can do that very specifically. So to me, there's really no harm in having joint bank accounts. And again, if you put in the money and then all of a sudden she jacks off and spends it all on something random, well, then that's great. You're like, well, I'm fucking glad I didn't get all my paychecks put in there. And then you don't put any more money in and you get a divorce or you stop being together again. But you know what I'm saying? Like, to me, it seemed odd to make the stance on that. It's like an easy fix.
There to find a financial agreement that we can both move forward with. And I stated that multiple times.
Did you regularly have conflicts about money?
We did.
And what were those conflicts about?
What were those conflicts about?
Were they just about the bank account, or did you have conflicts about other things surrounding finances and money?
Yes, everything. So from the mortgage to utilities, there was a disagreement with a payment on a shed. So she had offered to buy me a shed for Father's Day from Tractor Supply. It was like a $900 shed that would have been just enough to like store the stuff that we needed. Her and her father planned found this. I mean, it's a beautiful shed. I would have imagined costed $20,000 a large unit. I had nothing to do with that planning. It was delivered. Obviously, I was still excited to have it. It stored our equipment. It was great. And then she came to me requesting that I give her another $225 a month on top of what I was already trying to pay for the house and utilities. And she actually had told me at that time that if I did not give her another $225, that she could go up to the courthouse the next morning and start collecting more money from me in child support if I didn't do that.
Did you give her the extra $225?
I told her that if I had the extra $225 a month, I'd give it to her, but I simply did not have it.
Were you at that time helping with the mortgage?
I had paid the mortgage starting June 3rd of 2020 to December of 2022. The original agreement was that I would pay everything for a year. That would have put us from June 3rd, 2020 to June 3rd, 2021.
And when you say you pay everything, what do you mean by everything?
That mortgage and utilities for 1 year. After that year came up, she was consistently and constantly unwilling to change the arrangement. I still continued to pay the mortgage and utilities, 24 checks totaling over $25,000. From that time, I tried to come to her multiple times to find an alternative, like financial agreement, whether it be a 50.
Hold on. 24 checks equaling $25,000. Fuck you, buddy. You're complaining about your less than $1,000 a month mortgage and utility obligation? No. That doesn't jive with me. You make $95,000 a year. Yeah, why wouldn't you pay that? Am I missing something? They're just not a team, obviously. Well, but together they were common law, and then they were getting married, so he was gonna own the house. And you know, I don't know. Fuck, if my bills were $1,000, I would be very happy.
50. That's what I originally wanted. It made sense. We both split the house and the utilities 50-50, and that, you know, everything else kind of works itself out. She was unwilling to do that. She said that if we were going to do 50-50, that we were going to do 50-50 down to the very last piece of paper that we bought. And I just kind of thought that was, I didn't want to break down every single receipt every time we went somewhere.
Were you making a similar income to each other?
As far as I understood, it was similar. I never 100% knew what she was making.
Okay. Did she know what you were making?
She did. She just always had told me that she barely makes more than me or something. She had always just mentioned that she just makes just a little bit more. I just never knew what that number was.
So did you share financial information?
Honestly, no, there was not a lot of shared financial information between the two of us, to be honest.
So after that first year, when you agreed to pay all of the mortgage and all of the utilities, and you said you came to her several times talking about it, what would happen? How would those conversations go?
It was just there was always an excuse. She would say, well, I didn't receive the money at the beginning of the month. So until you do it consistently for a year of you know, then it's basically not going to stop until I did it exactly to the day of how she wanted it, I guess. I'm not really sure. It just kept getting pushed and pushed and pushed. Like I said, I have 24 checks that were directly made out to her in a sum of over $25,000.
And at some point, did you stop paying her?
That is correct. In December of 2022, when I tried to come to her for the last time saying we need to do something different, she again refused. I knew that the house, I mean, I knew we weren't going to go under, right? Because the house was paid for. It's a paid off house. I didn't know what else to do unless I just stopped paying and forced her to come to the table to find an agreement that we could both come to.
If the house is paid off, why were you paying her payments?
From my understanding, basically the payments were just, I was always told that the payments were just enough to cover the taxes. That's as far as I know with the house.
Do you know, was it your understanding Ms. Wenzel owned the house?
It was my understanding, yeah, that the house was owned, I believe, in a trust between the family members.
Okay. Did you have an understanding of how that worked? Like, did she owe money to the family members for that?
Correct. So I would pay her, and then she would supposedly pay her parents that amount of money that I gave her.
So were those disagreements about finances or a regular occurrence?
It went in cycles. We would have an argument over finances. Nothing would really change. Everything would be fine. We would have an argument over finances. It was just a constant cycle.
Did you disagree about anything else?
We disagreed upon during our time together.
Correct. When you were together, did you have disagreements about, say, household chores?
Yes. With that, you know, I always did what I could every single day. I would get the boys after school, I would bring them home, and I was home the rest of the day trying to accomplish what I could accomplish, whether that be tasks outside of doing in the yard work. I would come inside. I knew that the more I got done inside, the happier Meg would be. Like, the cleaner the house was, the happier she would be. So, you know, I would vacuum, I would cook, I would clean. I did everything that I could possibly do every single day just to try, just because I knew that's what kept the peace.
And did it keep the peace?
Sometimes, most of the time, but other times, I wouldn't vacuum the way, like, I have to vacuum from outside in. If you don't vacuum from outside in, then she would say that if you're not going to do it the right way, you might as well not do it at all, because I might have to come around and do it, behind you. If I did the dishes and left water spots on the sink, I, basically don't do the dishes if you're not going to clean up after, the water. And that was actually, we broke up in, I believe,
We broke up over water spots in the sink. Oh, they make enough money to hire somebody if they have the house paid off. They're both apparently making $90,000 a year. There's $180,000 a year income in this house. And they're fighting over water spots. Fucking hire somebody, you lazy fucks. As soon as I'm able to make enough money to do that, I would do that. Instead of fight over it, immediately.
July of 2020 for that very instance. I did a whole bunch of yard work. I came inside, I vacuumed, I did the dishes, and then she made a comment to me in the hallway about water spots around the sink. And I had came to her and I said, I feel kind of disrespected of everything that I've done. And I just really didn't appreciate her comment. That was near the end of the day at that point. We had went upstairs to get ready for bed. She had been upstairs before me. She was sitting Indian style on the middle of the bed. I remember it. I walked in front. I leaned over the front of the bed.
Sir, do you mean crisscross applesauce? Does he mean crisscross applesauce? Because I don't know what he just said, but I can't say that. That's race. Oh my God. Does he mean cross-legged? That's sitting up like, yeah. Oh my God. This case is going to kill me. I don't know if I could live with Jacob, though.
And she's like, "You're upset, aren't you?" I was like, "Yeah, I feel."
Agreements about, say, household.
If you don't vacuum from outside in, then she would say that if you're not going to do it the right way, you might as well not do it at all, because I might have to come around and do it, behind you. If I did the dishes and left water spots on the sink, I, basically don't do the dishes if you're not going to clean up after, the water. And that was actually, we broke up in, I believe, July of 2020 for that very instance. I did a whole bunch of yard work. I came inside, I vacuumed, I did the dishes, and then she made a comment to me in the hallway about water spots around the sink. And I had came to her and I said, I feel kind of disrespected of everything that I've done. And I just really didn't appreciate her comment. That was near the end of the day at that point. We had went upstairs to get ready for bed. She had been upstairs before me. She was sitting Indian style on the middle of the bed. I remember it. I walked in front. I leaned over the front of the bed. And she's like, "You're upset, aren't you?" I was like, "Yeah, I feel disrespected that I've done all these things. And then your comment that you're going to make to me is about water spots around the sink." And she had stated that basically this is how it's going to be. It's going to be my way or the highway. And I was like, fair enough. So I pretty much went around, went to bed. I woke up that next morning. I didn't say a word to her. I didn't. I got ready for work, went to work. I came home. I packed all my stuff and I left.
Did you ever disagree about whether or not household chores were more important than taking care of the children?
Yes, there was a time when I came inside, he was kind of crying, and then he came over to me and wanted to be picked up. So it was kind of in between the couches near a gate where the divider is for the kitchen. I picked him up. Meg comes walking in from the back door. I could tell she had just got done picking up, I believe, the dog poop from the dog area in the backyard. She walks in and she looks at me and she says, "I know you're just not standing there holding a baby right now." As if she had already, kind of outlined what she wanted me to do. And she was upset that I'm just standing there holding a baby, I guess, instead of accomplishing the things that I could be accomplishing.
And what did you think was more important?
Attending to my crying son and not a baby that it was referred to as.
Did you ever have any conflicts about your ability to keep the house clean?
Yeah, so she called the upstairs a pigsty, I guess. And it was very difficult for me. So I would be trying to maintain the rest of the house. The laundry was the most difficult for me. Did I get behind on laundry? Absolutely. Because anytime that I would try and do my laundry, I had to time it around her and the kids.
Again, just fucking $180,000 a year. Buy another washing machine. Hire somebody to do your laundry. Like, send it out. I don't understand where all their money was going. I really don't. Because, like, these are easy problems to fix when you have that kind of money, in my mind. I'm trying to be really, really serious. Like, you could eat if food, and it doesn't sound like food was the problem because he cooked. So it sounds like cleaning was the problem. So hire a maid.
So she would, first of all, refuse to do my laundry. So I had to do my own. She wouldn't mix my clothes in. I had to do my own laundry. So, but I also had to do it in a manner that did not interrupt her laundry schedule. So anytime my laundry was in the washer, and if she was trying to put a load in, she'd like, "Jake, stop holding the laundry or the washer hostage." There was a time where I had put my clothes in at night before bed and washed them. And I didn't want to wake anybody up by transferring them to the dryer. So I went to work. When I came home from work, my wet clothes were in the middle of the floor so that she could do her laundry. So yeah, there was a lot of times where my laundry did get backed up because it was probably the most difficult for me to navigate from the rest of the household.
Somebody's got a problem somewhere. There's somewhere there's a hemorrhage of money. Cocaine is a great hemorrhage of money. That is petty. She should have put them in the dryer. That's fucking, I would never do that. I do everybody's laundry in the house. Now, here's the thing. When I do laundry, I don't sort it. I don't fucking change colors, none of that. And guess what? Turns out fine every time. So a great big fuck you to everybody who gets pissed about that. But, sorry. Do your own laundry. If you don't like how I do it, I'll do your laundry, but you don't get to complain when you're like, "What the fuck was all that in there together?" Yeah, it sure was.
Chores.
Ms. Wenzel, in her answer to our motion for temporary custody, alleged that you left the master bedroom and the bathroom embarrassingly filthy when you left the home. Is that true?
It's not true. Again, there was probably laundry. Nothing.
I don't mind people doing laundry the way they want to. I just don't like people telling me how to do my laundry. Nana's just so bad for this. And I'm like, guess what, Nana? Like, all my clothes are old. I don't have anything new. There's nothing going to bleed any dyes. Like, if I had white towels, I don't. Maybe I would want to bleach the towels, but I don't. And my laundry's in the basement too. I hate it. But here's what I do. I throw all the laundry down to the stairs, the bottom of the stairs. There becomes a pile. And then I go down there and I do it. I don't want to do it. If I had lots and lots of money. No, see, if I had lots and lots of money, I probably would do it myself too. Because when you can buy lots of fun things, anyways, besides it. But I would hire somebody to clean. Absolutely. Laundry, I don't mind doing. But cleaning,
There is no chance that it could ever get to the point to embarrassingly filthy. The slightest, she would always say that if it's not perfectly clean this way, that I'm triggering past traumas, and that it would never be allowed to get to that point of being embarrassingly filthy. There's just no shot of it.
She also alleged in her answer to that motion that your only job in the household when you were together was lawn care. Is that true?
Oh, I did enjoy doing lawn care a lot of time, or every time actually. Originally, Noah would ride on the lawnmower with me. He enjoyed doing that. When he got older, Asher hopped on and liked to mow with me. We enjoyed doing lawn work. I did, but that's certainly not the only thing that I did. I did a majority of the cooking. When I cooked, I cleaned up after I cooked. When she cooked, I cleaned up after she cooked. Like, that's just how it was. And then I would I vacuum, just even if it didn't look like it needed vacuumed, just putting vacuum lines in the rug in our living room, I knew would make her happy. It just instantly changes her mood.
In her answer to the motion, she also alleged that you placed trash bags in the basement, the garage and shed, instead of taking them out for garbage pickup, and she included photos.
That's good.
Was that true?
So it is true, but it's so it was during a period when we were trying to work things out. I had pulled into the driveway. She was on her way out. She was taking the boys to a trampoline park in Kalamazoo with her friend and her kids, so that I could stick around and get some things done. That was pretty much like the most details she gave me. So I was like, okay, that's fine. I go inside, I start cleaning. I literally cleaned the living room, the kitchen, upstairs, I cleaned the entire house. And then I had texted her. I ran and picked up some dinner and brought it back. And I tried to text. I was like, hey, when are you guys coming back? I can have dinner ready by the time you guys get home. I seen her pull in the driveway a short time later. And luckily, I'd already thrown the dinner in. It still had probably 30 or 40 minutes left to cook. Not even 5-10 minutes after they got home, she said, Jake, come outside with me. She walks me into the garage and she basically berates me for deciding to clean the house instead of the garage. She said, my time would have been better spent cleaning in here, but I chose to clean the house when she has her hired cleaning lady was coming like the next day. And so she told me that I've not only wasted my time there, but
she has a hired cleaning lady. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm getting Karen vibes from him. I am. I'm getting Karen vibes from I don't know what's going on. I'm getting Karen vibes all around. I will say, if he knew the cleaning lady was coming the next day and he went and pre-cleaned, see, it's one thing if there was no cleaning lady coming and he didn't know about it. That's just a mistake. But if he knew about that, then he probably shouldn't have cleaned the house. I'm falling on Megan's side here. I wouldn't have berated him, but I think that is not a good use of his time. But she needed to be more clear about it, I guess. I don't know.
I'm wasting her money by then her having to come basically clean a clean house. And so after that, I go back inside and she sits down on the couch and she looks at me and she says, "Were you planning on sticking around for dinner?" I was like, yeah, I mean, I would like to. I'm assuming that you're like, I'm not welcome. And she's like, I don't know her exact words, but it was basically that she wanted me to leave. So I did. So I got dinner in the oven. I left before it was done. And then I still came back the next day to then clean the garage. Upon cleaning the garage, obviously, when you clean a garage, you're taking the trash, you're taking the broken stuff, anything that's not needed to make it an organized garage. And I put it in bags. There's probably 4 or 5 bags, I'm not sure. And then I was kicked out again before the trash service properly came. So those bags were sitting in that garage for no more than 48 to 72 hours.
Did you ever have conflicts with Ms. Wenzel regarding your golf league?
Yeah, so that was a topic of discussion that she ultimately thought it would be okay or a good idea that I be able to participate in the golf league. She gave me the approval, which sounded great in theory. It's just every time that I
Jacob, listen, honey, I know that your mom has spent a lot of time with you, still spends a lot of time with you. Why do you need permission to do an activity? You don't need permission from your spouse to do an activity. You need to talk about it, and they should be excited for you because you're doing an activity. Am I weird? Like, this relationship sounds so toxic to me. Just toxic as fuck. Like the close family. They all live within a mile of each other. The fucking just smothering, just
would go to golf, I would be getting texts like, "When are you done? Is it almost done?" I would always have to hurry home. And I knew that whether it was golf league, a golf tournament, I was not coming home to it's not like, "Hey, honey, how was golf?" Or, "Hey," it was a death stare of like, "You better get upstairs, get cleaned up, get changed, and get back down here to help me as soon as you can." It was, I paid for it. I was able to do it, but I paid for it.
There have been a lot of allegations about alcohol in your golf bag and alcohol while you're golfing. Did you ever hide alcohol in your golf bag?
No, I had no reason to hide alcohol at any point during our relationship. I had absolutely zero reason to. We drank together. We had mixed drinks at the house together. There was never a point in time where I felt I needed to or ever hide alcohol. And not only that, when I'm golfing, I'm a 3 handicap. I play golf to win. I'm a competitive individual. I'm not the guys out there hooting and hollering, getting wasted, just swing and miss. Like I'm out there to win. That's priority 1 for me.
There are photos that Ms. Wenzel has provided of a golf bag with alcohol in it. Do you know what photos I'm talking about?
I do. And
Do you know how the bottles of alcohol got in the golf bag or near the golf bag?
no, and I honestly think it's a staged picture because I have the golf clubs that I use for golf and I've had them prior to that. So she took my old high school golf bag that had like 3 clubs in it that's been stored in it and then set some alcohol next to it as if that's like my active golf bag that I take with me. And it wasn't. It's simple as that. I've had my golf clubs prior to any of this.
And what about the little bottles of Fireball that she's alleged she found around the house?
The only spot that I know that I left those was in my nightstand. That is accurate. So when we went,
okay, what? That's weird. Fireball in the nightstand is a little weird. I don't give a fuck about the golf club stuff. That does sound staged. I'm getting Amber Heard vibes. But I would be concerned about finding liquor in a nightstand, empty liquor bottles in the nightstand. I think that's concerning. It's one thing to like have them on your bedside table if you had a night. I don't even know, but I think finding hidden liquor bottles is probably concerning.
Golfing, there was times where, we get an eagle on a hole, you would celebrate with the little malt liquors. And I had those. So the empties would be in the golf cart. When I return a golf cart, I like to clean it out. I was a cart boy. That was my very first job. I appreciate it when people cleaned out their cart after they were done with it. So I took all my golf tees, my golf balls, any of the trash, and I put it in my pockets and I hurried home. So obviously now I'm hurried home. I walk in the
Oh, wait. So now they're everybody else's? Yeah. Now, how are they getting from the golf course to the nightstand? That doesn't make any sense, buds. You're going to pass. Also, in America, you guys can just throw stuff like that in the garbage, right? Like you can put that in a garbage bin. In Canada, you can't do that. You have to recycle things properly. So you can't put plastic or bottles in garbage bins. So there would be like, but still, you wouldn't put it in your room. What?
door. I get the death stare of hurry up, get down here and help me. So I go upstairs. I empty my pockets into my nightstand as quick as I can. So in my nightstand was also golf tees, golf balls.
Okay, this is a rehearsed story. We're going to scroll back here and listen to it without me interrupting. This is a rehearsed story. That's weird. He set this up. He laid the foundation for this story talking about her earlier. This is weird. Okay, I'm going to back it up a minute.
Simple as that. I've had my golf clubs prior to any of this.
And what about the little bottles of Fireball that she's alleged she found around the house?
The only spot that I know that I left those was in my nightstand. That is accurate. So when we went golfing, there was times where, we get an eagle on a hole, you would celebrate with the little malt liquors. And I had those. So the empties would be in the golf cart. When I return a golf cart, I like to clean it out. I was a cart boy. That was my very first job. I appreciate it when people cleaned out their cart after they were done with it. So I took all my golf tees, my golf balls, any of the trash, and I put it in my pockets and I hurried home. So obviously now I'm hurried home. I walk in the door. I get the death stare of hurry up, get down here and help me. So I go upstairs. I empty my pockets into my nightstand as quick as I can. So in my nightstand was also golf tees, golf balls, those bottles. I wish I would have thrown them away. I didn't. They ended up in my nightstand with receipts, just other miscellaneous things. I would hurry up, jump in the shower, get changed, and get back downstairs.
And how much would you generally like drink when you were out golfing?
3 drinks maximum. I always had water. So it would be, they're hot days. And again, I'm out there to compete. I'm out there to win. So I would have a water, it'd be a 6-pack in the back. But honestly, I don't remember the last time I drank more than 2 out of that 6-pack. And then if we got an eagle on the hole, we'd take a shot. But again, this is over a 5-6 hour period of time as well.
Do you have any rules for yourself about drinking and driving? Yes,
but I do not drink and drive. I'll have 2 drinks. On our last date night, I had 2 drinks. I always live myself to that. I forecast out how long I'm going to be somewhere. Even when I went to Arizona for my buddy's wedding just this past, year and a half ago now, I had my own rental car. I drove it from Phoenix to Tucson. I could have drove my rental car out to meet the guy, but I Ubered. I Ubered anywhere that I had the potential that I knew I was going to drive. If I'm going to Uber myself and be responsible for just myself, I assure you I'm going to be responsible when there's more than just me in the car as well.
When you and Ms. Wenzel were together, did you have disagreements about drinking?
Honestly, it was rare. So there was times. I know the big one was the New Year's Eve of whatever it was, 2019. I believe it was that I had went out and purchased they're like malt beers. They're the expensive ones. It's literally like $20 a beer. And I had bought a few of those and different flavors and whatever. I had uh, two of those and maybe like one other beer. And it, I do not believe that I was drunk. I ended up, I took Noah to bed. We read he's got like a superhero book. I bought up a bunch of superheroes that I had found at an antique store. I forget the name of them, but they're like elemental based. So there's like a earth one, fire one, and there's a huge book. It's literally like a 200-page book that tells like the history of all these superheroes. And we read some of that before we went to bed. And then Noah ended up going upstairs with Meg because even when I would try to put him to sleep, he usually didn't fall asleep without Meg being next to him. I woke up, I think, around 4 a.m. I did get sick from that. And again, I think it's because it was the milky, malty beer. I've never drank it. It was something new that I had tried. Um, but it didn't change. I mean, I ended up getting sick in Noah's bathroom. So I woke up the next morning, went to work. I called Meg and apologized because I was embarrassed by it. It I didn't think I drank to excess, but it's still embarrassing to be puking in your kid's bathroom. I agree. And I just wanted to let her know that, like, hey, I'm sorry.
Were there any other times when you were in bed and you threw up as a result of having too much alcohol?
No.
Did Ms. Wenzel ever ask you to buy alcohol?
Yeah, there was 2 times that she asked me to pick up some rum chata for her. And then just recently around the same time as our casino date night, she asked me to pick her up a surprise drink. Or a mixed drink, and I told her I'd surprise her with something. I ended up getting uh vodka, cranberry, and Sprite, I believe it was. We picked that up. I made the first one. I tasted it. I was like, I kind of like it better without the cranberry. Handed it to her. She liked it. She drank the whole thing. I didn't have one that night, but the next night I did make one in an actual uh mule. It's a smaller cup. I made another one in that with it. But
So you said there were times you would drink together at home?
those times were more rare. So we probably made mixed drinks at home, maybe I had 3 times or so over the.
This is insane to me. I have to tell you, like, honestly, I could. Anyways, whatever.
Course of our relationship, but every single date night that we went on, we drank together every single date night. And I drove to and from every single date night.
And so what did that mean in terms of how much you would drink?
I never had more than 2, and most of the time I actually I can't remember. I would say at least half of them, I probably only had 1 drink.
And tell me about that date night in 2023 at the casino.
Yeah, so we had.
Was this after you had separated?
That is correct.
Were you trying to reconcile?
At least explore the option thereof.
And how much did you drink?
I had 2 mixed drinks with dinner.
And how much did Ms. Wenzel drink?
Well, we pulled into the casino and I got out of the car, walked over, opened her door. I actually got down on one knee and basically re-proposed to a new beginning.
At a casino? At the casino entrance? Jacob! Oh my God. Could you imagine if you were just like trying to let him she is so. Oh my God. I don't know. Oh my God.
it was kind of a moment for us. And then I stood up and I kissed her. And I said, "You've already had a drink, haven't you?" Her breath, and I tasted it. I think she said something about, "How do you know?" or something. I was like, "I tasted it." Anyways, it was kind of like a laugh. And then we go inside and have dinner. And then at dinner, I ordered a Moscow Mule. I believe I ordered a Moscow Mule. She had a double shot of whiskey on the rocks. We had dinner, finished our dinner. And then at the tail end of dinner before they grabbed our plates, we each ordered one more drink. So she ordered another double whiskey on the rocks. This time, I mean, the first one that he poured, there was like an inch gap in the top of the glass. But this time, I feel like he overpoured it. It was full to the brim. And then we finished those. I finished those shortly after, like walking around the casino for a minute. And that was my last drink. We walked around, enjoyed the casino. We finally made our way around to a different bar at the front of the casino. And I ordered her, or we went to the bar. She ordered another double whiskey on the rocks. So it would have been her third one. So she had at least 6 shots, even though I think 2 of them were overpoured, but we'll call it 6. And then I didn't order anything. That is around the same time. So about the same time she was getting that third drink is when my aunt, Kinsey, and Lindsay all were coming up to the bar to order a drink as well.
And at the end of the night, did you feel like you were intoxicated?
I did not. It had been at least an hour and a half, 2 hours, probably by the time I finished my last drink.
And did Ms. Wenzel seem intoxicated?
I mean, she was intoxicated enough that we drove back. We had originally met at Family Fair. We parked under the flagpole on like the west side of the building. We had talked there for a minute. And then there was a point in time where I had walked around and opened her door. And we were getting close. And then eventually it was in a position where she was like, her back was on the passenger seat. Her feet were kind of more towards on the ground. And I was laying between her legs and we were making out. And then at one point she asked,
What? What? Oh my God. Oh my God. Look at her face. Oh my God. We go back a minute. Hold on.
she said something about, "How do you know?" or something. I was like, "I tasted it." Anyways, it was kind of like a laugh. And then we go inside and have glass. But this time I feel like he overpoured it. It was full to the brim. She was getting that third drink is when my aunt, Kinsey, and
This is why I'm not supposed to touch it. Anyways, we'll listen again from here. I'm not going to touch it again.
Lindsay all were coming up to the bar to order a drink as well.
And at the end of the night, did you feel like you were intoxicated?
I did not. It had been at least an hour and a half, 2 hours, probably by the time I finished my last drink.
And did Ms. Wenzel seem intoxicated?
I mean, she was intoxicated enough that we drove back. We had originally met at Family Fair. We parked under the flagpole on like the west side of the building. We had talked there for a minute. And then there was a point in time where I had walked around and opened her door. And we were getting close. And then eventually it was in a position where she was like, her back was on the passenger seat. Her feet were kind of more towards on the ground. And I was laying between her legs and we were making out. And then at one point she asked me if I wanted her. And then I was like, "Do you want to go back to the house?" And she thought about it for a minute. She said no. And then I said, "Well, can I at least take you home?" And she said no. I said, "Can I at least follow you home?" She said, no. I said, all right, well, at least text me when you get home then. And I'm not sure that she ever texted, but I did end up texting her the next morning asking her how she was feeling after that night. But also to note that same night, she was also the primary caretaker of our kids that night as well.
Did you have concerns about that?
I did, and I wish I would have made it more of an issue at the time, but I did not.
Were you hopeful for reconciliation at that point?
At that point, it's still yes.
Was there a time when you drank so much that you passed out on your mom's couch?
No, it was we're out on the boat all day. We were dancing, we're in a boat parade, and we've won it for 8 years in a row. So we put a lot of effort into, dancing and making it entertaining for everybody watching us. So we came upstairs, everyone was hungry. I believe we threw a mac and cheese in the oven that needed like 40 minutes to cook. The kids were in the toy room playing together. I turned the TV on, the fan on, the AC was blowing, and I laid back on the couch and enjoyed the cooling off of being out in the sun all day. It had nothing to do other than just nothing feels better than AC and a fan after being out in the sun all day.
Were there ever times when Ms. Wenzel went drinking with friends and you took care of the children?
Yes, she went to St. Joseph with her friends, Ashley and Lindsay, stayed the night there. So I was home taking care of the boys. She, was texting, and I think she might have even called to check in. I told her everything was fine, just to enjoy yourself. They actually took my vehicle, now that I think about it, to St. Joe. Yeah, I mean, there was no issue, but yeah, she came home the next day around lunchtime, I believe. And there's been other occasions as well. She went out to New Holland with some friends to drink. There's times that her friends would come over just to chat, and then it would turn into, hey, do you mind if I go grab a drink with her? And I always said, yeah, sure, go ahead. I've never once said no to her going out with friends, ever.
In Ms. Wenzel's answer to the motion for temporary custody, she alleged that you used a tracking device to track a former girlfriend. Is that true?
That is not true. Matter of fact, my ex-wife, actually, that we separated in 2010, she actually gave me her wedding ring and engagement ring back before she left the hotel room, something that I still can't get back from Meg, the engagement ring. We went out to dinner, our very last night ever seeing each other. We wished each other the best. I congratulated her on her new marriage. We left and separated that very amicably, and we've always just wished each other nothing but the best. There was never tracking, never, none of that.
Have you ever used a tracking device to track Ms. Wenzel?
Absolutely not.
Did you ever have conflicts with Ms. Wenzel if you had to work late?
Yes. So it always seemed okay at the start. If everything was in a perfect world and I got a call and I could be there in an hour and get back, even if I had permission, it's fine. But the longer it went on, it's like, when are you going to be home? The more she would get overwhelmed or stressed or whatever's going on. And it would become an issue by the time I got home. And then the night shifts were the worst because I'd be working all night. I would come home at 7 a.m. By the time I got to bed, it's like 8 a.m. And she's, saying she's trying to do her best with the kids. By 11:30, 12 o'clock, she's coming upstairs. What, are you going to sleep all day? So, here I am getting 3.5, 4 hours of sleep. She's asking when I'm going to get up to help. It was very difficult. It was challenging, but it wasn't pleasant by any means.
When you were together, did you attend her family's events?
Every single, at least 98% of them. I'm trying to think of a time where I had to work and I wasn't able to attend an event, but I would certainly have to be reminded of that time because I've been at everything.
Did you go to events for her son?
All of them.
Were there ever times when you attended events with the children for your family and without Ms. Wenzel? That she didn't go to your family events, but you took your children?
It I'm struggling to think of a time before we separated that I attended an event without them or without her. All I can think of is just the soccer or Asher soccer when she would have migraines. Yeah, all the times, everything else I think was after separation that I can recall. I'd have to be reminded of any others, I guess.
Were the migraines often or were they occasional?
Her original, she showed me her chart. She would track them. I mean, it was literally like 16 to 20 migraines a month. Some of them lasted 2 to 3 days at a time. There's been times where she didn't get off the couch for 2 days. She's throwing up in a basket. There's been times that I would have to go get Noah from his visits because she can't get off the couch. Um, yeah, it was frequent. She would have like these little warming bands that I would be constantly running, warming up for ice. I would search things online. I've bought things off Amazon that would try and help with their migraines. I was trying to do what I could when they happened, which was very frequently.
Did they eventually improve?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
When you separated, did you remove yourself from the family calendar?
I did not. I was removed from the security system, the family calendar, and something else all on the same. I got all 3 notifications at the same time on my phone.
When you were together, how did you divide childcare responsibilities?
It was never like anything like consistent written in stone. So I know oftentimes after dinner, I would take the boys, I would bathe them. I would try and get Sam out first, and I'd get Sam dried off, diaper and pajamas. And then I'd bring Sam to her to nurse. And then I'd get Asher ready, out of the tub, put his pajamas on. And then by that time, Sam was usually done nursing. And then I would take both of the boys per usually their request. I would take them on a little nighttime drive. They loved listening to Coco Melon. It gave Meg time to herself. And then 90% of the time, by the time we did a little loop around Battle Creek, I would usually stop by Chick-fil-A and get Meg a shake, come back home. Usually by that time, the boys were asleep. I would carry them into bed. And, it kind of worked out for everybody. That's how night times went. Otherwise, I mean, we were able to look and see what needed to be done, and we would do it. I mean, there's never, I guess, a consistent rhyme or reason.
Is Ms. Wenzel still nursing Sam?
So in March of 2023, every time that Sam would want to nurse, Meg would say, "Oh, you need to start weaning. We need to get this boy to wean. You need. And now all of a sudden, once all this happened, nursing is, she needs to nurse him. She needs to nurse him. She nursed Noah for a year. She nursed Asher for a year. She wanted Sam to wean in March of 2023. And now that this is happening, we're dragging it out to now where, Sam is eating with utensils. He eats solid food. I feel like it's all for show at this point, but that's in my opinion.
What was your relationship like with Noah?
It was good. It was challenging at times, but it was good. From the very first time I met, I shouldn't say the very first time, but within, the first 5 times of meeting him, he had a lot of outbursts for whatever reason. We'd be out and about, and it was hard for us to leave anywhere without him kicking and screaming. I would oftentimes try to step in to, be the one to, at least carry him and get him to the car, which was oftentimes where we were trying to get to in the first place. But in terms of, I'd take him fishing. I've taken him, to the trampoline park. I just took Noah to Comic-Con across the state to Detroit, or the Detroit area. We've done a lot together. We play out together in the yard.
Did Ms. Wenzel trust you with Noah?
Absolutely. That's why she let me take him across state to Comic-Con, not even a year and a half ago. She not only trusted me to take him there, she obviously trusted him enough to make it mandatory that I that Noah come with Asher and Sam even during the visits initially. I was not allowed to see Asher and Sam unless Noah was also present and coming. And not one time from anybody did I ever receive any type of concern over safety, alcohol, nothing, not a single concern this entire time to date.
Did you ever talk with Meg about adopting Noah?
Twice, at least on 2 occasions. One time we were sitting at the dining room table. I think we were kind of discussing how to, or not how to, but just the amount of money we could save if we were all under the same healthcare policy. And it was at that time that was kind of triggered the pondering, like if we adopted or if I adopted Noah, that I know that conversation was brought up at that time. And then there was another time it was by the front door. I figured what triggered the adoption thing. And it was just like, how do we get Matt to allow it to happen? And
Matt is Noah's dad.
that is correct. And it was like, we could leverage the threat of child support. If he doesn't agree to let me adopt him, that, we could do that. Or it was just pondering the idea of how we could get him to let me adopt Noah.
Since you've separated and there's been a parenting time order in place, have you had parenting time issues?
Sorry, say that one more time.
Since you separated and there's been an order for parenting time, have you had any difficulties with Ms. Wenzel regarding parenting time?
Just with parenting time, or just like issues in general regarding?
Well, let me be more specific. Has Ms. Wenzel included you as a contact on Asher's daycare registration or preschool registration?
No, she had originally claimed that she included me on that registration. I tried to call and get some information on Asher. They told me that they could not give me that information without contacting.
I'm going to object as anything some third party told him. It'd be hearsay.
Okay.
Okay.
Ms. McDeff, what's your response?
I agree.
Okay, sustained.
Did you at some point become aware that you were not on the preschool registration?
That is correct. I made a phone call that made me realize that I needed to go into Asher's preschool to confirm that I was on his registration. Upon arriving to his preschool and looking at the paperwork, I was not included on the registration. They had to provide me that paperwork. I put my information on that, and I had to provide them a copy of the temporary order. And they sent that information at that time to Meg to let them know that I was added to Asher's school.
Do you know whether you were included as a contact on Asher's gymnastics registration?
I was also not included on Asher's gymnastics registration, not as a parent or emergency contact. I also added myself to that as well.
And did you take Ms. Wenzel off of the Sunday school registration?
No, I had not touched that registration since the first day that we all went as a family to Woodland. So when I signed him up in 2020 or whatever that first day is that we went, whatever information I inputted in 2020 is the same information that was there when she went up to Woodland. And I was approached by Woodland's.
And be careful about not telling.
Okay. I was. I had to give the okay to Woodland personnel to allow them to send Meg some information regarding the kids, which I said absolutely go ahead.
Did Ms. Wenzel contact you about that and ask for that information, or did somebody else?
She did not.
Did Ms. Wenzel allow you to see the boys initially after you separated, but before there was a temporary order?
Very infrequently. Not.
What was she allowing?
It was like Wednesdays from 3 to 6 and Sundays from 3 to 6 or 7. It was twice a week.
And
I believe.
Did you request more time? I
did. I told her it wasn't enough time for myself or the boys.
Did you ever request a 50-50 schedule?
I did multiple times. I told them, I said, it's the most fair thing for the boys and myself that they see both their mother and father on an equal basis.
Were you surprised when she refused you that?
I wish I could say I was more surprised, but I knew by that point when she had already ripped the kids out of their normal routine, that it wasn't going to go that way. She claimed that she was doing what was in the best interest and stability of the kids by completely removing them from their father and from their normal routine at literally a flip of a switch, that I knew that we weren't headed towards a 50-50, that we'd probably be sitting here today.
Were you surprised by the allegations regarding alcohol?
Yes, because we sat down and had a conversation with her mom, my mom, again, trying to remediate this. Alcohol was brought up exactly 0 times in that conversation. Alcohol, everything has stemmed from me refusing joint bank accounts, and everything after that has been at least a I don't want to say fabricated, because a lot of it is, but she's taken a very small sample of like one day and making it to be repainted of my entire life and our entire relationship. But it's, yeah, no.
When was the last time you had an alcoholic drink?
It was like September 23rd, 2023.
And what did you have?
I had half a beer. Actually, here in Marshall, Braylon Edwards came and visited the Copper Kettle, I believe it's called. I had a half a beer at that location.
And why have you stopped drinking?
Well, I will elaborate too. I had half a beer at that location because I was working out, taking creatine. I was already dehydrated. So it was like every sip of beer that I took, it was uncomfortable. I was already dehydrated. So I just didn't finish it. That's why I only had half. But I stopped drinking just based on the principle that someone has effectively used a little bit of alcohol that I have consumed to essentially rip the kids away from me. And, it's just a principle of this matter that alcohol is not an importance to my life. It's not a problem in my life. And so I have completely eliminated it and refused to ever allow somebody to use it against me ever again.
Have you had any issues with Ms. Wenzel being on time for scheduled visits?
Yeah, so the visits that landed on Noah's visitation day, the kids were supposed to arrive at 3 p.m., but Noah was also brought and returned at 3 p.m. at a separate location. So by the time they loaded him up, got him whatever he needed to get, this, that, they were, 45 minutes late. So they'd get there at 3:45. And then I'd have to have them fed, bathed, and returned by like 6 p.m. So she provided me just enough time to, do basic necessities and return them, I guess.
Ms. Wenzel alleged in her answer to our motion for temporary custody that after you left the home in July of 23, that you had no interest in seeing the children for a couple of weeks. Is that accurate?
It's not accurate. That all stemmed from when she initially ripped the kids out of their normal routine. I knew what her mindset was, and I believe that's when I started making phone calls to, attorneys, just trying to figure out the next step and what I needed to do. I didn't want to make a knee-jerk reaction and do anything that was going to further compromise the situation.
So in her answer, she included several dates that she said were scheduled for visits in July through September of 23. That she says you canceled visits with the kids. Do you remember canceling visits?
No, it wasn't a cancellation, but it's a good spinoff of what happened. So I was stuck at work. There was somebody had committed suicide on the tracks. They got hit by a train. I was the inspector at the time. That requires a big investigation and a big inspection at the end of it. So I knew by midday that I was not going to be able to make it home on time to get the kids. So I reached out to Meg and let her know that, hey, I'm not going to be able to make it there. Is there any possibility that I can, we can reschedule for tomorrow? Not a problem. We rescheduled for tomorrow, but now that's been spun into a cancellation when it was just an agreed upon rescheduling.
Since there's been an order in place, have you missed any visits?
No.
Do you agree that you were frustrated with the kids at the last soccer practice yesterday?
Absolutely not.
Do you believe that you can provide the children with parental care?
100%.
Discipline?
Yes.
Love?
Yes.
Guidance?
Yes.
Attention?
Yes.
Are you providing the children with secure stability?
Absolutely.
Permanence?
Absolutely.
Do you believe that you're bonded to the children?
1,000%.
Do you think that they're bonded to you?
1,000%.
How do you demonstrate love and affection to the children?
Hugs, kisses, telling them I'm proud of them. At night we read, and I have each kid on each shoulder. You know, if there's any argument at night, it's who gets to lay on dad's chest more. Um, I I'm just there with them, interacting with them every minute of my time.
Do you believe that the children are bonded to their mother?
I do.
Do you think that it's an equal bond between mom and the kids and you and the kids?
I would have a hard time disagreeing.
Do you think the children are bonded to any other adults?
I do. They're bonded to, yes,
Who else are they bonded to?
definitely Sarah.
And why Sarah?
Sarah's with the kids, a lot. If Sam hops out of the car and sees Sarah and Meg, he's gonna call for Sarah first. I know that he does.
And what about grandparents?
They're bonded to, yeah, my grandparents. They're bonded to the entire family. They pretty much, I would say they miss anybody that they're not with. They're bonded. They half the time they were with Meg's parents, Sarah, in the mornings, and came to my parents in the afternoon. I know on one of the boat rides during reconciliation in July, we took my parents' boat out on the lake, just the boys. I went picked up Meg and the boys. It was just us went out. The whole time on the boat, Asher was asking if we can go see grandma.
I'm gonna object to anything the children are saying.
It's not for the
Okay.
truth of the matter asserted.
Well, we'll sustain it anyway.
When there was some inference is when Ms. Peso was questioning your mom that she takes care of the kids rather than you when the two of you are together. Is that accurate?
It's not accurate at all. I do all the cooking, cleaning, bathing, diapers. I do all of it 99.9% of the time. Sometimes Asher wants my mom to put on his shoes or something like that. But I do agree. I have my parents over there a lot. They used to see the kids every single day. I want to be able to let them maintain that relationship. I don't, I'm doing what I can for the boys to be able to maintain the relationships that they've previously established with the amount of time that I have. I'm doing the best that I can, and also obviously having quality time just with me and the boys.
When you and Ms. Wenzel lived together, who primarily got the children up for out of bed and ready for the day?
Sarah and her father.
And why is that?
Sarah and her father were oftentimes at the house, entering the house, getting the boys ready before Meg was even out of bed. They would come in, they would go straight to their rooms, get them ready. This was even before Asher and Sam. They did the same thing with Noah. They were the ones that came in, and I offered at times, or I ended up offering. I'm like, listen, I can get the boys ready. It's just I normally leave at 6 a.m. So if I get the boys ready for the day, they're already up. I'm waking up the house early. And she said, oh, don't worry about it. Sarah likes doing that anyways. And so.
If you had the kids on a 50-50 basis, would you be able to either have somebody come over and get them up so they wouldn't have to get up so early, or what would your provisions be for them?
I think my mom would be able to come over to the house and just be there before I left, and then the boys would be able to sleep until an appropriate time.
Do you like the fact that the children are currently in childcare?
I don't.
What would you prefer?
That they be with family.
Do you believe that you have the capacity to give the children love, affection, and guidance, and to continue raising them in a religion?
I do. And, the most important thing for me is that they have the presence of God in their family, regardless of denomination. And I'm not going to sit here and, tell, her whether what church this go to. The fact that they have God and that relationship with, Jesus in their life, that's what matters most to me, regardless of the denomination.
And did Ms. Wenzel ever object to going to church with your mom at her church when you were together?
No, we went to Woodland a handful of times. Noah absolutely loved going to religious education at Woodland because a lot of his friends also attended there. It's the place that they first attended, or at least Asher first attended religious education at Woodland. It's not to say that we never went to St. Joe, but we went to both churches a handful of times.
And how often do you take the kids to church?
Now or then?
Now.
Now we go every Sunday. They've been every Sunday that they've not been sick, or there's a weekend that we took Asher up north for his birthday. They've attended every other Sunday.
And do you have any disagreement with the children going to St. Joe's when they're with their mom?
No, I don't.
And do you believe that she's taking them every Sunday, that she has them?
I would have no reason not to believe that.
Do you have the ability to provide the children with their basic necessities like food,
Absolutely.
clothing?
Absolutely.
There's been some testimony that your mom's provided clothing for the children, that your sisters provided clothing for the children. Can you provide them clothing without their help?
I have provided a ton of clothing. I could certainly do it without their help. They just enjoy it. Yeah, it's really a non-issue.
Do you have the ability to make sure the children have proper medical care?
Do I have the ability? That's correct, yes.
Is there anything that the children wouldn't be able to provide at your home?
No,
Do you believe that Ms. Wenzel has the ability to provide the children with their basic material needs?
I do.
When you were together, who primarily made doctor's appointments for the kids?
She did.
And who primarily took them to doctor's appointments?
So she did, and it was for, it was the most logical and rational way of doing it. So it could have either been me taking a full day off of work, where I work in between Schoolcraft and South Bend, or she would always tell me about how much PTO time she has saved up, so she'd be able to take 2 hours. She's right next to the kids and right next to the doctor's office, so it always made the most sense that she was able to do it. It's not saying that I can't do it, but as a family unit, a family, it would lack any sort of logic or rational thought to do it any other way.
And do you believe that if you had the children half the time, that you'd be able to take them to doctor's appointments when you needed to?
I would be able to do it now. We actually just got a week of, time that we'd be able to use for those appointments.
Does Ms. Wenzel inform you when the children have doctor's appointments?
It's gotten better. Originally, not so much, but it definitely gotten better.
And what was going on originally?
I just don't believe that the notifications. I'd have to double check. I can't say for certain, but I just feel like it's gotten better from what it originally was.
Did you tell her when you took the kids to urgent care?
So we had been in communication all weekend. I let her know. I'd have to recollect a little bit on how many messages I sent her and when I sent them, but I know I sent her messages. I know I woke up and I took a video of the boys. They were feeling better. So I'm like, hey, boys, do you want to send a video to your mom, just, saying I love you and basically show her that you're feeling better. And so I took a short little video. Asher said, I love you, Sam. They were energetic and they looked like they were coming around. So I sent that to her and she responded, hey, boys, glad you're feeling better. And then I believe it was, I can't remember exactly when, but at some point I contacted Meg and let her know that I was concerned about Samuel's eyes. I was like, he woke up, there was crusties in his eyes, but his eyes aren't red. I'm just concerned that, is there an infection on the backside of his eye? I don't know. I believe that was at night sometime, and she asked me to send her a picture of his eyes. So I did. I sent her a picture.
Sent her a picture. And Wendy, thank you so much. Aww. We're going to do members only tonight. It'll be later. I need a little break after this. But because we have cross-examination, some cross-exam that we're going to have. But thank you so much, Wendy. So make sure you have gifting turned on, and just know that it will not be this during members only. Thank goodness. Yeah, this case is beating us down a little bit on a Sunday. I think I'm going to go make another coffee. We have another hour to go. Like we're going to put this time in. We're finishing this up. So I am going to go put the kettle on to boil here in a second. And he doesn't sound quite as angelic, hey, Ed? They did make him sound like an angel, like an angel, like an angel. Thank you again, Wendy. Appreciate you.
I don't even believe she responded to the picture, which to me indicated that she was not concerned. And then the very next morning, We went and I forget. We woke up. Sam's eyes were crusty. I don't know where we ran to, but I could just tell by Sam's eyes and the way he was acting that I wanted to get him checked out. I was concerned. So at that very moment, my primary concern was what is going on with my son's eyes. So I left where we were going. I went straight to urgent care. I walked up to the counter. The first thing they ask is verification of phone numbers and this and that, and whether or not you want your this appointment to basically be sent to your primary provider. I agreed to all that. I verified her number. I verified my number. I agreed to have it submitted to the primary care provider. I knew that that was going to trigger a text message. And, you know, I knew she was going to get notified. So we went and did the appointment. At some point in the middle of the appointment, she texted me about, why am I getting a message about the boys being in the emergency room? And I said, the boys are not in the emergency room. I don't classify that the same thing as urgent care, but yes, we are here. I'm getting Sam's eyes checked out. And I figured that while I'm here, I'm also going to get Asher checked out just to be certain. We're already here. Let's get him looked at. And that's what I told her. Then, yeah, we loaded up. But upon walking outside, I see, you know, Sarah pull around. She takes a right down Columbia. We leave, we load the boys up, we leave. I'm with my mom at the time. We drive back to my house. I grab the boys, get them inside. My mom takes off to go to prescription, and yeah.
So when you had the kids for spring break, your mom testified that there were some issues with Asher, that he needed to have some he was having some constipation issues.
That's correct.
Did you and Ms. Wenzel communicate well about how to take care of him?
No, so she tried to communicate with me regarding, I remember her details not being clear. So I tried to reach out to the primary care, or actually I got on a Bronson My Chart, and there was nothing on Bronson My Chart of like a care plan or what to give them. Nothing made sense. And so when I went and got the Miralax, and you read the back of the Miralax and it says like the do not give more than this. And then I'm reading what she's telling me. I'm like, nothing adds up, but I have nothing from a doctor to go off of what to give them. So eventually, when I did get in contact with the primary care provider to send me, I'm trying to think how it went. So it was like, I got in contact with the primary care provider to have them send me basically instructions of what to do next. And she sent me something basically that said, if you see loose stools, to give your son or to give your child this amount of Miralax. And so I was like, okay, I'm seeing I'm seeing loose stools. I'm going to give him this amount of Miralax. So I started doing that. That was just that one day. That was Tuesday or Wednesday. And then I had Asher, I had Asher FaceTime Meg just to say, hey, check in, you know, just to have him have a visit with Meg over FaceTime while we're going. Asher had mentioned how he was doing good with his medicine, but like the dosage changed. He said something that triggered Meg to say, oh, we're not quite there yet. Jake, we'll talk about that, you know, later. I forget exactly the words used, but in a nutshell, that's what happened. So after that FaceTime, she reached out and said, we're not quite there yet. You need to continue with the, you know, the same regimen. I said, okay, can you provide that to me in any kind of documentation from a doctor? She said, no, you know, couldn't provide it. And I'm like, it doesn't make sense. I've never been to a doctor where there's not a documented like treatment plan. It made no sense. So she couldn't provide it. It wasn't on Bronson My Chart. So once she reached out to the doctor the next morning. Once I finally received that information from the doctor, I continued then with that regimen as well. I followed the care plan to how it was presented to me.
And was Asher okay?
Asher was okay. He ended up having like 36 loose stools during that week. I mean, the doctor said, you know, the big mass had pretty much been like everything was going great upon the checkup.
Well, when you had the kids for the week, did you have any problems with Sam wanting to nurse or missing breastfeeding?
No,
Do you ever have any issues with the children not wanting to sleep in their own bed, getting them to bed?
no, they both fall asleep with ease. We read and then they pretty much fall asleep on each of my shoulders.
And do they sleep with you or do they sleep in their beds?
They sleep in their beds, but I fall, you know, I'm in there when they fall asleep and then I go to my bed.
Do you and Ms. Wenzel agree on what school system you'd like the children to attend?
No, she reached out to me and said that she would like them to attend St. Joe. And I told her that I just prefer them being a public school system. And I think the one that makes the most sense is Lakeview, since it's the one that's closest and most convenient for us.
Is that the one that's in your school district? Do you live in that school district?
That's correct.
And does Ms. Wenzel also live in that school district?
That's correct.
There was a question about open wounds on Asher's legs from a walker. Or do you know anything about that?
I don't.
Do you remember any? You don't remember any open wounds when he was little?
I don't. I remember had a lot of diaper rash when he was little, but I don't remember open wounds. No.
Do you, in Ms. Wenzel's answer to our motion for temporary custody, she alleged that you refused to contribute financially as an equal partner or co-partner. Do you agree with that?
I don't agree with that at all. Like I said, I've made out 24 checks to her totaling over $25,000. I rest assured that I've spent at least paid for 75% of the utilities during that time. I have all the check numbers that would go to her. So if we would like to deep dive into that, I would be more than willing. But my first check was written in June 3rd of 2020, last one in December of 2022. I also paid, pretty much anytime we went out anywhere, I paid for everything. Meg never had to spend a dime. She even has made comments to me that it's weird when the guy doesn't pay for dinner. So anytime we went out to dinner, I was typically paying. I won't say it was 100% of the time, but it was definitely a large portion of the time.
Did you buy anything when the kids were when she was pregnant with the kids and you were preparing to have children?
Yeah, I bought all types of the baby changing pad. I mean, I have an entire Amazon list of stuff that I bought for the kids.
You become easily overwhelmed with the children. Would you agree with that?
I don't agree with that. I would agree with the fact that Samuel never took a bottle. He never took a pacifier. So when Samuel was very, very young and Meg would leave the house and Sam would start crying, I had two choices. I mean, yes, I texted her and it was like, hey, Sam is crying. Just, heads up, he wants fed. He will not take a bottle. He has never taken a bottle a day in his, baby life. He had never taken a pacifier. He'll spit it out immediately. So if I wouldn't have reached out to Meg and texted her that Sam was crying, I'd probably be here today saying that I didn't relay to, Meg that, our baby's needs. It was lose-lose, I guess.
Do you anticipate staying in your current residence?
I do anticipate staying.
Do you think it's a stable, satisfactory environment for your children?
I do.
And have the kids adjusted to your home?
They have. We could be out somewhere fun. We're like, Dad, can we go home? They're ready to go home. We have such a fun time. We do everything.
Are you currently dating anyone?
I am not.
Do you have any plans to change your family unit?
I do not.
Any plans to move anyone into your house?
I do not.
Do you have any personal knowledge as to whether Ms. Wenzel is dating?
The only clue that might be, I know at one of Asher's tennis practices, Sam ran over to say hi, and some guy named Rob was trying to FaceTime her, and when she saw it, she tried to quickly tap out of it. So I don't know who he is. He's not family. So I know many guys don't FaceTime females to be friends, but that would be an assumption. And then the other time that might be is when Asher FaceTimed her at my house on spring break. Asher asked, Mom, are you alone? And I don't, oh, sorry. All right, never mind.
To the best of your knowledge, does she reside with anybody other than the children?
To the best of my knowledge, no.
And currently, do you feel like your extended family is part of your family unit? Like cousins and grandma and grandpa and aunts and uncles?
Grandpa, grandma, aunts and uncles, you know, I try to, like I said, I try to maintain the relationships that the boys have established. You know, time is limited. So eventually I would like the boys to be able to, you know, create more of a relationship with their more distant cousins. It's just, I do the best that I can with the time I'm allotted.
Have the kids enjoyed seeing their cousins and playing with them?
Absolutely. Asher calls Aniston one of his best friends.
Do you have any criminal convictions?
I've got a speeding ticket, I believe, to my name my entire life.
Do you know if Ms. Wenzel has any criminal convictions?
I don't know.
Do you have? No, I think we've covered everything about that. Do you have any concerns about Ms. Wenzel's moral fitness to raise the children?
No.
Do you have any mental health problems that would prohibit you from caring for the children?
No.
Do you have any physical health problems that would prevent you from caring for the children?
No.
Have you gone to counseling?
I have.
And who did you go to counseling with?
Margaret. I forget her last name. Her name is Margaret, though.
Is it Hunter?
Margaret Hunter, that is correct.
And how many sessions did you go to?
2 or 3.
And why did you go there?
I just needed, like, I've always been very good at, you know, kind of self-reflecting and being able to process my thoughts and emotions by myself, you know, in the military. It's just, you know, when you're deployed, you kind of care for yourself in that way. So I've always been good with that. This has just kind of weighed on me a little bit more. So it was just somewhere to go that I could speak what I was feeling and kind of get that release, in which was effective, I would say. I felt better after it.
Were you prescribed any medication for mental health purposes?
No.
Do you take any medication for any physical health problems?
No.
Do you know if Ms. Wenzel has any diagnosed mental health problems that would prevent her from caring for the children?
I'm not aware of any diagnosed, but besides the migraines, I guess she had a treatment plan for that if that's considered, but otherwise, no.
And did she take medications for the migraines?
She did, yes.
Has Ms. Wenzel requested that you attend co-parenting counseling?
She has.
And have you agreed to that?
I did with conditions.
And what were your conditions?
My conditions were that the files would be closed so that they couldn't be presented here today. And my reasoning for doing that was because she has shown absolutely zero indication that she's willing to be an effective co-parent. She can't be at pickup. She can't be at drop off. She's done nothing but try and limit my time to the very last second, to where I don't get to see the boys for a second longer than what's currently court ordered. She has shown zero signs that she wants to become a better co-parent. So my thought process was that if the records were sealed and they couldn't be brought here today, that would let me know that her going to counseling for co-parenting was genuine in the sense of becoming better co-parents for our children. And if she wasn't willing to do that, and I felt like that I was correct, that her true intentions were to go in there and, you know, tell the therapist the same thing she's trying to come in here today to try and get her to rubber stamp them to give them more of credibility.
Okay. Currently, your children are too young to go to kindergarten.
Correct.
But you've talked about a lot of activities that they have.
Correct.
There's been tennis? Is that accurate?
Tennis, correct.
Soccer?
Correct.
Gymnastics?
Correct.
Have you and Ms. Wenzel been able to agree on all of these activities?
No, so I had also paid for Asher's floor hockey season. I had prepaid for it in hopes that he would be able to do it. He was not allowed to do it. The boys have not been allowed to participate in any activity or function that does not land on my time. Asher would still be doing tennis today on Wednesdays if she would have had made available Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, or Friday. I could have scheduled practices on any of those days. She has continued to refuse to do and allow anything outside of my current court-ordered time. And I obviously don't believe that's in the best interest of the boys. It's in the best interest of her desires of removing me.
And is it important to you to coach?
Absolutely. I grew up, my dad coached me in all my stuff until, 8th grade. I promised Asher that I would be his coach in all these different things. I've already been, in the yard since he was very young, hitting baseballs, playing hockey. Like I've been doing everything with him for years, and I promised him that I would be his coach, uh, just like my dad was for me.
And has he had fun?
Absolutely.
Have you disagreed about gymnastics?
We have disagreed about gymnastics. She had pulled him out of not only gymnastics early, she had prepaid for November and pulled him out in October. We had, signed up for soccer. She pulled him out of soccer early. And then, so yeah, we've had any disagreement. We've had pretty much all disagreements regarding their activities.
Do you like to attend the kids' activities?
Absolutely.
Do you feel that Ms. Wenzel has been inclusive in making that decision, those decisions about activities with you?
She's been present for them. I wouldn't call it inclusive because, it's what she wants. So what she wanted was, instead of me coaching Asher in soccer in Waddles Park, 5 minutes from our house, she thought the best thing to do would be to drive an hour round trip to Kalamazoo to continue to do a sports camp instead of Asher being a part of a soccer team that his dad was coaching. It just didn't make any sense, but she wanted to do it because, yeah.
Do you want to be involved in parent-teacher conferences?
Not only do I currently am.
Are there parent-teacher conferences in preschool?
Yes, I've had parent-teacher conferences with Asher.
Do you believe that you're able to facilitate and encourage a close and continuing relationship between the boys and their mom?
As hard as it feels sometimes, Meg will always be the mother of my children, and I would never, and I have consistently to this day, I have tried to foster that relationship. I have invited her out swimming. I have invited her over to the house. I've invited her to multiple activities to include bringing Noah with her, and she has repeatedly denied and refused any of that, and that's fine, but I will continue to try and, improve the co-parenting relationship as best as I can.
Has she made any overtures towards you to attend activities or events with the kids outside of regular parenting time?
Sorry, say that one more time.
Has she invited you to do anything with her and the boys?
There was one time way back when she messaged me at like 6 o'clock at night, was like, hey, we're going ice hockeying going to ice hockey in the morning. I was unable to see that notification in time. I reached out to her and let her know that that I missed the notification, and that I would definitely love to do that. Hope to do that in the future. It was a one-time deal 6 months ago. I have a hard time believing that was what Meg wanted to do. I feel like that was advice, but that's also an opinion.
Do you think that if Ms. Wenzel was more involved in exchanging the children rather than having her sister do it, that would help facilitate a better relationship?
Of course, it would eliminate half of our disagreements. A lot of these things that we're disagreeing on a texting app is a 5-second statement or a 10-second conversation that we could have at pickup or drop off. Like, has Asher had his Miralax yet? Like, we're having to text these things back and forth, or just a lot of the little things that we're disagreeing about. Just be present for your kids.
Can you have those conversations with Sarah?
It just creates like a middle party of like, he said, she said, I told Sarah this, but she relayed this, and it's confusing. It makes things difficult.
Do you believe that Sarah's ever followed you?
1,000%. And I believe that even more now, knowing that, you're telling my parents that they leave 30 minutes prior to arrival. How do they know that information? Camped out?
Have you had any domestic violence in your relationship?
I do not.
Do you even raise your voice?
No.
Has there been any verbal abuse in your relationship?
Not in our relationship, but I feel like the verbal abuse came on Easter Sunday, or Easter at Asher's Easter function at his school. There was Asher was crying. Meg picked him up, went over and sat down. I seen Asher was crying. I walked over. I said, what's going on, buddy? She said, Jake, you need to stop this before you cause more emotional trauma. Mind you, we're surrounded by a ton of parents, other kids. Like this isn't a private, setting. And I said, Meg, I don't know what's going on right now, but this is not the time or place for this. If you would like to sit down sometime and talk, we can definitely do that. She stood up, she pointed at me and said, you need to stop listening to your parents. You need to do what's best for your family. And why don't you be a man for once in your life? And pointed at me, turned around and walked out with Asher, holding him the entire time.
Ms. Wenzel alleged in her answer to our motion for temporary custody that you had been verbally and emotionally abusive to her. Do you have any idea what that's about?
I have no idea.
Do you feel like she's, other than that example at the Easter event, do you think she's been emotionally or verbally abusive to you?
I've never viewed it as that. So I never viewed it as that when I was in the situation. Like I've never, characterized with the way or what someone says to me as either manipulative or verbal or psychological abuse. I've just always kind of dealt with it and processed it. But now, after the fact and talking to counselors and therapists who are more specialized in, recognizing that stuff, say that I have, and reflecting on our relationship, I would characterize there as being some verbal and psychological abuse, sure.
The court can consider other issues that are not like enumerated in the best interest factors. One issue that came up in the answer to the motion for temporary custody was your possession of firearms. Do you have firearms?
I do.
Do you have long guns or handguns?
I've got a shotgun and 2 handguns.
And how do you store your firearms?
I've got trigger locks on, so I've got a trigger lock on my handgun that I conceal carry. I've got trigger locks on everything. I got my shotgun in a gun case that's locked and kept in a closet that's locked because I don't ever use it, with that pistol in there as well. And then the pistol that I conceal carry, I have a trigger lock on, and I had this.
My tithings to Saint Jacob and the Loch Ness Monster. I love it. Thank you so much. I feel like Leslie is frothing at the mouth to get into cross-exam here. This is taking forever, Miss McNiff. Thank you again, Kay Crimson.
Same one at when I was at Meg's residence, when it was in the nightstand with the trigger lock. I'd never had one in the chamber. She knew the combination to the trigger lock. Yeah, we both went and got our CPLs together. Yeah.
So you've had CPL training?
Yeah, we both attended the CPL class together and both got our CPL licenses together, as well as all my training from the military. I'm a, certified, or I've got a marksman ribbon for small arms expert. And
when you were together, did Ms. Wenzel ever express concern over the way you stored firearms?
Never. But there was a lot of times that she liked to know I had it on me. When she heard noises in the middle of the night, she asked me, is your gun close? There was zero concern ever regarding my firearms.
Was there ever a time, either during your relationship or after you separated, that she requested your assistance involving a firearm?
Yeah, so she texted me at 1:30 in the morning after a night that she kicked me out. Hey, you awake? It woke me up. I texted back, hey, what's going on or something. She calls me, says that the alarm's going off. She thinks someone's in the house or in the garage. So, so I grabbed my firearm. I knew where it was, took off. I was there within 10 minutes. I cleared the garage, cleared the house.
Did she ever express any fear of you with your use of firearms?
Absolutely not.
If you were to have 50-50 custody, who would you be fine with Megan being the first one that you would call if you had to work overtime or you had a call that you had to go in on?
Again, in a perfect world, I would love, a co-parenting relationship that we would be each other's first call. It's just, I feel like at least she's miles away from that. But in an ideal world, I would love that relationship to where we are each other's first call when we eat.
I want to be your first call, baby. Thanks, Fletchable. You rock my world. You rock my world. Thank you so much. $5 from Megan's Booze Fund. Wouldn't it be funny if Megan was the one drinking? I think, is it projection? Who knows? We need to spring for Kirkham's Booze Fund, right? Oh gosh, just the pettiness.
When we need someone to watch the kids, absolutely.
Why do you think it's in your children's best interest for you to share custody on an equal basis?
Because I think that they have a loving mother and a loving father. And I think we both provide something to their life that kids need. You know, kids need their father just as much as they need their mother, and just for different reasons. And, the balance creates a great childhood. And, we provide different things for children, mother and father do. And our kids are lucky enough to have great parents.
I have no further questions.
Okay. Ms. Payton?
Thank you. Mr. Smith, let's start with what you just indicated, that both parents can bring something to the table for the children. That's what you said, right?
Yes.
Okay. And in order to do that, you have to have 50-50 parenting time?
I guess any amounts of time would be the more time that a parent has with their child, the more that child is able to learn and grow from that parent.
So quality parenting time is technically more important than quantity parenting time. Is that correct?
It's quality parenting time is more important than quantity.
Than the number of overnights.
No, because I think the full spectrum of the day, whether nighttime, daytime, it's all important. I would disagree with that characterization.
Even if you're not available through all that time?
I'm available an equal amount as the mother is.
Okay. You work from home?
I don't.
Okay. When the kids' school calls because they're sick and you're in South Bend, you can access them faster than Megan?
I personally can't, but I would be able to make a phone call with someone that could access them just as quick as Megan, sure.
You'd call your mom, right?
I would call whoever is available.
Would you call Megan?
Again, in a perfect world, when we could actually have a good co-parenting relationship, I would 100% call Megan.
You keep saying this perfect world. Didn't you try and get back with Miss Wenzel within the last 2 months to get into a relationship with her?
I tried to open the door to us becoming better, whatever that would be. I opened the door to us just improving our relationship, whether that improved it as parents or if some miracle it was something else. I don't close the door to any situation in my life. No.
Okay. So if there was a possibility that you were going to get back together in a relationship, that was something you were open to. Is that correct?
If everything made sense and the changes were made, and I like I said, I don't close the door to anything, but I do feel like we're a ways away. We're a long ways away from anything like that, but I would never close the door on on anything.
Okay. No, the reason I'm asking, because listening to you testify for the last hour and a half, I'm not sure I'd want to be in a relationship with Miss Wenzel because it sounded awful. Is that true?
Ms. Paisno, is that a question?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess it would sound just as awful as wanting to marry a guy that's been painted in this motion as well. I guess it's kind of equally as, I guess we're awfully perfect.
Isn't it more fair that you guys actually had some ups and downs in a relationship like some normal people do?
I would say we had high highs and low lows for sure.
Okay. Let's talk about spring break for a minute.
Okay.
We heard you testify and your mom testify. You took the kids to Great Wolf Lodge, correct?
Correct.
and then you took him to the Children's Museum in Chicago.
Correct.
Okay, and that there was a change in plans prior to the trip, correct?
Not prior to the trip.
During the trip, did you make change plans?
So Great Wolf Lodge was always the plan. That was always the same. The only thing that had changed the plans was the fact that the aquarium was sold out. I didn't anticipate that, so that's why we ended up having to go to the Chicago Children's Museum. And then the fact that instead of going to Ann Arbor, I decided to come home so that Asher could make it to his school events Saturday morning.
Okay. On page 2 of your answer to the motion for denial of parenting time, number 7, you admit that you took the kids to Great Wolf Lodge, but
Yep.
you answered that you took them to St. Joseph, Michigan to a children's museum and other activities.
So yeah, we stayed in St. Joe, but we went to the museum, whether it's out just, I don't know exactly the location of the museum, but we stayed the night in St. Joe. Yes,
In St. Joe, Michigan.
that's correct.
Okay, and then you drove to Great Wolf Lodge for a couple days, but then when you stayed in St. Joe, you then drove back into Chicago to take him to the Children's Museum?
Well, so we stayed in Great Wolf Lodge Tuesday night, Wednesday night. Okay. Then we woke up on Thursday and went to the Children's Museum, stayed the night in St. Joe, and did activities around St. Joe Friday morning.
Okay. At what point did you tell Miss Wenzel that you were going to Chicago?
I told her that we were going 3 hours away to Great Wolf Lodge. It's become apparent that I'm almost afraid to tell her exact locations because they seem to show up everywhere that I am.
Okay. So you kind of like were trying to trick her so she didn't know exactly where you were?
There's not a trick. I told her I was 3 hours away at Great Wolf Lodge. There's no trick involved. It's an assumption, I guess, of where.
Okay. You don't think it's important for her to know for emergency purposes that the children were outside of the state of Michigan?
I kept in contact with her throughout.
That didn't answer my question.
Is it? Yeah, I think it's important to keep in contact with Meg in case of emergencies. I do.
Okay. But if you're out of state, would you want to be made aware that Meg took the kids out of state for emergency purposes?
I guess I'm confused in what a state line for I mean, if I try to do my best to let Meg know. I wish I could let her exactly know where I am, but I honestly don't feel comfortable letting her know exact locations anymore because they're behind us every time we turn around.
Every time you turn around, they're behind you?
That's what it feels like when, they know exactly when your parents are leaving your house and they're at the same urgent care that you're at and following like it.
So,
It feels
Mr. Smith, you live on a busy road, correct?
it is pretty busy.
Okay, what road do you live on?
South La Vista Boulevard.
Okay, and how far does Meg live from you?
It's about a 5 or 7 minute drive.
Okay, and how far does Sarah live from you?
Just beyond Meg, one street down.
Okay, is it fair to say that it's not like they're going out of their way to come past your residence?
It would be out of to go to where, like Columbia Avenue is a main road, but to turn down La Vista Boulevard to go.
Can you see your house from Columbia Road?
Yes, but to do it consistently is enough to know that they leave my house 30 minutes before pickup every single day seems like a pretty consistent routine.
Does your mom leave 30 minutes before every pickup?
I mean, she definitely leaves before pickup. The amount of time, I don't know. We try to provide, I try to provide my mom and dad a fair amount of time. And, she does try to be gone before pickup, but it's not like a set time, no.
How do the exchanges go with Sarah?
I mean, they're okay for the most part. I don't understand the way she does pickups. For instance, like I have a wide open driveway but yet we choose to park on the side of a busy road to load the kids up instead of just pulling in my driveway and loading the kids up, where it's not only closer to the door, but it's safer. So besides that, I would say pickups are okay. I don't have any real issue.
How about drop-offs? How do the drop-offs go? Do those go good too?
Pickups and drop-offs look the same.
They do. There's no problems with the kids aren't emotional or anything at the exchanges?
So
That's a yes or no question, by the way. Are they emotional at the exchanges?
instances, yes.
And that's mostly coming from Sarah to you, correct?
Twice, yes.
It only happened twice.
Yes.
And was that Asher or Samuel?
Asher.
These events that you were signing the children up, such as tennis and soccer, do you, and actually you said some other thing, what other, that you weren't able to do because you prepaid? What event did you prepay?
Hockey.
Okay. Did you consult with Meg before you prepaid hockey?
I did.
Okay. And she said no, before you prepaid or after you prepaid?
So I'm not sure. I know I consulted with Meg at least twice on it. The one time it took a long time for her to get back to me, and I wanted to make sure that that league did not fill up. So I went ahead and prepaid, and I'm like, whether or not he's able to do it or not, I'll be out, the $40, but at least he's able to be in it. If he's able, if she says yes, at least he's got a spot.
When was that?
Oh, that was early. That was maybe a hockey November, December.
2023?
Correct.
Okay. Did they do hockey prior to November, December 2023?
This was the first age group that they could have. I mean, we played hockey at the house, but nothing organized, no.
So tennis was on Thursdays, is that correct?
Wednesdays.
Sorry, Wednesdays.
That's correct. Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you wanted to coach the soccer team, correct?
Correct.
So you are doing practices on Wednesdays.
Correct.
But in reality, didn't Megan offer for you to do a one-on-one thing with Asher at Kingdom every Saturday? So you would have actually gotten an extra amount of time one-on-one with Asher?
Yeah, but I'm thinking what's in the best interest of my child. And the best interest of my child is for him to learn and grow in a team environment, something that he's going to be doing the rest of his life instead of just like a mini camp in Kalamazoo.
How old is Asher again?
He's 4.
Okay. Think he has a concept of what a team is?
He's learning one now.
Okay. So you'd rather be in charge. How many kids are on the team?
10.
Okay. So you'd rather be in charge between 5 and 10 of the kids rather than have a one-on-one with Asher?
We're all on together. He's getting the full experience. Asher was so excited and like high-fiving me and everything. He had a blast being out there. Yeah, Dad, are you going to be my coach every week? Yes, buddy.
I didn't ask what Asher said, and that's hearsay.
Thank
You indicated that you've suffered from emotional and verbal abuse and that counselors have indicated that to you. That now you understand that you could have been subject to that, correct?
That's correct.
Did Margaret Hunter tell you that?
She can't remember. Yeah, I can't remember the exact words, and I know it was between her and Anta, that basically I was a pool boy, and that I honestly, between the two of them, I know it was mentioned.
Okay.
I don't recall.
Those are the only 2 therapists that you saw?
That is correct.
Okay. When we go back to the spring break issue, did you and Meg follow the Asher's school's break for Christmas break?
Did we file the school's break for Christmas break? That is correct, yes.
Okay. And
Well, we
that
filed,
was only 1 week, correct?
I don't recall.
Okay. And isn't it true that his preschool really didn't celebrate spring break? Is that correct?
They acknowledged that the kids do spring break, but they all still offered their services for kids that weren't able to go on spring break. So
But they don't have a spring break, is that correct?
that is correct. They don't have a spring break.
When did you notify Meg that you were going to exercise spring break of 2024?
I mean, I guess I'm new to the whole parenting order. I didn't realize that I had to be the one to notify Meg of what the court order says in regards to who gets spring break. For me, I see that Meg has this holiday. I don't need her to tell me that, but I did notify her at least a little bit in advance that we would be going on spring break. I can't tell you an exact number of days but
Isn't it true that Meg was expecting the kids back that Sunday after your weekend?
I'm sure that's what she would have liked.
No. It's because you didn't notify her that you were keeping them for that 10 days until that Friday after you pick them up. Is that correct?
I just let her know what the court order said.
Okay. But Asher's school didn't celebrate spring break, correct?
They typically, from my understanding, it follows the district that you live in when that occurs.
Does your order say that? Specifically?
I would have to double check, but I thought it did, yes.
Okay. You indicated you want the children to go to a public school, and that be in Lakeview, is that correct?
That is correct.
If Meg was willing to pay 100% of the tuition to go to St. Joe, would you agree that they could go to the private school?
It's not something that I'm not going to take a firm stance on it now. I would want to do some research before I made a decision like that.
It wasn't something that you guys had talked about previously?
Absolutely not.
Let's go to this Miralax incident when you said that Meg didn't notify you of what was going on. Do you read the Our Family Wizard?
I do.
Do you read it every day?
Try to.
There's times you go a couple days without reading it, though. Is that correct?
I mean, we both have, absolutely.
Okay, I'm asking about you.
Yes.
Okay. And she actually outlined what the doctor had told her about the Miralax, correct?
So, yes, she tried to tell me what a doctor was telling her without any sort of doctor note. It's just something that I have never seen. So, yes, I doubted it.
Okay. And then she actually called the doctor and got you a letter so you would believe it. Is that correct?
Yes, one was finally uploaded to Bronson My Chart. And once I seen something from an actual doctor on documentation, I followed it. Yes.
Do you think that Meg would purposely try and harm her child by giving her Miralax?
I've never heard of a doctor giving a verbal treatment care plan without it being written in paper. So I would be lying if I said I wasn't concerned when you read the back of a Miralax bottle and it's saying something completely different.
Wasn't Meg primarily responsible for the kids' medical care during your relationship?
She was.
Okay. Did you question her during your relationship about caring for the kids and what a doctor would say?
No.
Would she come home and show you a paper, or would she just tell you what the doctor would say?
She would tell me.
Okay. So this time was different.
Circumstances are also different.
Okay. But I'm going to ask you again, you think she would tell you something to potentially harm the child?
I mean, I at this point, I wouldn't put it against her because she's tried to also, when Asher had.
There's no other question in front of you, but thank you. And same, did you tell her that it wasn't needed? That you weren't going to give Asher the Miralax because you didn't think it was needed?
I don't remember that. I'd have to see that. I don't remember ever saying that.
Okay. You indicated that Meg hasn't offered you any additional time.
There was the one hockey incident, and since the creation of the order, unless I'm refreshed of a different incident.
And that wasn't the next day. It was actually a week. She had given you a week's notice, didn't she?
For the ice skating?
Ice skating, yeah.
Absolutely not.
Okay. Hasn't she offered you to come over and use the basketball hoop with the boys because the boys like to play basketball?
That was at the very, very beginning, I guess, but that was also during my time. Like that wasn't like come over whenever you want and play basketball with the boys. Absolutely, that was not the context in which she told me I could come use it. It was when you have the boys, you can come over and bring them back to me and play basketball at my house.
Let's go to this urgent care. I just want to clarify. Did Meg tell you over the weekend that she believed the kids had pink eye?
Did Meg tell me over the weekend that she believed the boys had pink eye?
Yeah. Before you took them to urgent care?
Not before, no.
Okay. So that wouldn't be in our family wizard?
I don't remember that. Like I said, I sent her pictures of the eye. I had concerns over the eye. I don't remember a response from her after I sent the picture to the time I took them to urgent care. I don't remember a response.
Okay.
So
Now, and I just want to clarify, you relied on the fact that you thought Bronson would text her that she was at urgent care rather than you call her and tell her you were at urgent care?
no, I knew they would. I would have definitely let Meg know, but in that moment, my primary concern was my children and their health. As soon as I got figured out what was going on and that appointment's over, I'm gonna let Meg, hey, Meg, this is, I took the boys in. This is what it was. It wasn't an emergency to the point to where we're talking about a limb or stitches. The boys were sick and I wanted to know what was going on. And I would have certainly let her know about it like I always have. There's never been a time where I tried to hide an illness. I would have let her know. It just wasn't going to be in the very middle of the appointment while the doctor's standing in the office.
Why didn't you call her on the way and say, hey, I'm running the kids to urgent care?
Like I said, my focus at that time is I thought there was something definitely wrong with Sam's eyes. I wanted to get it figured out. That was my number one concern.
This Miralax thing, you said that you testified that the doctor said things were better at the follow-up checkup.
That's correct.
Did you attend that appointment?
No, but I called and had a over the phone consultation with his doctor regarding that appointment.
Okay. Did Meg put on our family wizard the results of that appointment?
Maybe after, like I knew the appointment was happening, so I was monitoring Bronson my chart, right after the appointment. So when I pulled up the Bronson my chart, and then I immediately called, and I just wanted to hear from the doctor herself.
The doctor was that available to talk to you right then?
She called me, yes. Not like that very second, but the note was made, and the doctor called me within, I don't know, 4 hours or so.
Had Meg posted in our family wizard within those 4 hours?
I don't recall that. Possibly, but I don't recall that.
That urgent care visit that you didn't notify Meg about, have you paid that bill?
I have not.
Has Meg asked you to pay the bill since you didn't notify her of the appointment?
I just followed the order, and it says that, that I'm able to make those decisions to seek treatment for the kids. And then there's a separate part of the order of who is responsible for the payment of that. And I feel like I am paying it. It's just not directly for that. She's getting the money, via.
Oh, you want her to pay it out of the child support?
I mean, what I pay for health insurance and the money, I don't know.
I'm just clarifying. You want her to pay it out of the child support, correct?
I just want the order to be filed. Whatever the order says is what I would have done.
So what I would consider violating the order by not notifying her. You want her to pay for the appointment that you didn't notify her of.
But I've read the order, and the order states that I'm the parent in which the child are with has the, ability to make medical decisions in the best interest of the child, or something along those lines. There's another one that states I'd have to read it again, but I know I've read that order multiple times, and
At that hearing, did you have, or at that urgent care, did you have the kids tested for COVID?
after that,
No, at that urgent care appointment, did you have the kids tested for COVID?
I can't remember if they were tested for COVID. I know I didn't request them to be tested for COVID, but again, I can't recall if it was like a doctor recommended, or if I don't remember.
Okay. Regardless of who recommended it, were the kids tested for COVID?
Again, I don't recall. I don't recall because I didn't request it. So if they were tested, it was because, yeah, all I know is I did not request a COVID test. I'm not 100% sure if they were given one.
During that weekend, did you give Asher a prescription that wasn't prescribed to him?
There was a prescription lubricant for eyes, and when I was at that doctor's office,
Did you give him a prescription that wasn't prescribed to him?
by okay of the doctor, yes, I did.
Okay. Did you give it to him prior or after you talked to the doctor?
After.
So what prescription would you have had to fill if you were using an old prescription or someone else's prescription?
No, it was the same lubricant that Sam had for his eyes was applied once to Asher's eyes. The eyelids, you put it on their eyelid.
After the urgent care visit?
Correct.
Let's talk about your job for a minute. You're currently an assistant foreman?
That's correct.
Okay, and you said your position can change roughly 2 to 3 times a year?
Yeah, it's really hard to gauge, but I would say on average that sounds about right.
Okay, do you have my exhibit 2 in front of you?
You mean B?
Oh,
Sorry, B, yes.
oh, yes.
Can you turn to the second page of that exhibit?
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
To verify we're on the same page, can you, up at the top, does it say a pay date of 12/29 of 2023?
Yes.
Okay, now go back to more of the left-hand side of the page. There's your earnings,
Okay.
correct?
Yep, correct.
Can you go to your year-to-date and tell me what your total year-to-date was for 2023?
So I remember he said this was like $93,000 or $97,000 when he was asked before. Is it going to be more? Oh dear.
Maybe we're gonna. So I see earnings year to date total 25,000. Is that what we're looking at? At the bottom of year to date?
No, that's company paid benefits. You got to look up
Oh,
towards
sorry.
this total or year-to-date.
Yeah, my apologies.
Are you talking
It's
about
okay.
the regular hours?
No, right. I see what the 110,335. Okay.
Correct. Yep. And that was the amount you received, including your overtime, arbitrary match, general holidays, vacation, paid absence, right? Do you see that all above?
Yeah, I'm just kind of reviewing it real quick here.
Okay.
Yeah, but he said it was included in that number. They specified that it was included in that number.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, but that 110,000 isn't reflected on your W-2, correct?
Correct.
Now, you indicated that you have some mandatory withholdings, and I can see your, let me go back. How often do you get paid? Biweekly?
Biweekly, that's correct.
Okay, so I see your national medical cost of 154.61, correct?
Correct.
And who is all covered under that insurance?
Myself and Asher and Sam.
Okay, so the three of you, correct?
Say that again?
So just the three of you.
Correct.
Okay, now looking at that, you testified that you have $350 a month of mandatory withholdings.
Depending on it changes, I guess, because some
I guess what I need to know is what are your mandatory withholdings besides your union dues?
so the railroad retirement, so the 401k 352.78. This is at a different one. This is probably page 1, I guess, but it's changes here. So this month it was 295.61.
Okay. Are you required to, and I'm just asking, are you required to submit a certain percentage, or do you pick what percentage you want to do?
I believe there is a baseline and you could do more for them to match more. I do believe, actually.
So do you know what the baseline is?
I don't, to be honest with you.
Do you know how much you contribute?
Not off the top of my head. I'd have to refresh my memory on that.
Do you know if it's what the baseline is?
I want to say I made it so that I could cap their max if I
Okay,
had.
so it's more than their base, correct?
Yes, but there's also the railroad retirement disability. I mean, all those are obviously mandatory railroad deductions as well.
I'm looking at your paycheck and I'm not sure what exactly are. Can you tell me what those are?
So the railroad retirement board tier 1, tier 2, and disability are all mandatory 194, 153, 45, 39.
I see those, but what are they mandatory for?
They provide railroad, services to railroads. So like if you got laid off, you apply or are short-term disability. So you get short-term disability from, I've never done it, so I can't think of the name, but then you also get your disability from this railroad board. So it basically gives you more money when you're on short-term disability. I've never had to use it myself, so I don't completely understand it, to be honest, but
Okay, no,
it's just
I understand all that.
it's different railroad employee services that are funded through those that are working. I don't know.
Okay. Now, in regards to overtime,
Mhm.
how much overtime have you worked in 2024?
Not a lot, I know that.
Not a lot because child support's pending, or not a lot because you haven't been mandated?
Not a lot because I've denied a lot of calls just to maximize my time with the kids.
Okay, so you're denying calls only on the times that you have kids, or?
That's correct. I have never denied a call when I do not have a kid or do not have my kids with me. That is correct.
Okay. Now, in regards to 2023, I think I heard you testify that that was a huge year for overtime.
2023?
Yeah.
I can't remember what either 2022 or 2023 was a big year for overtime. Yes. I would have to, what is year to date overtime? 207 hours. I can't remember if 2022 was more or not, but that is quite a bit.
Okay. And isn't it, I guess since 2020, you routinely had a lot of overtime. Is that correct? Or regularly had a lot of overtime?
I regularly had quite a bit of overtime. Yeah.
Okay. Or is on-call paid different?
Okay. So on-call is not paid different. The only thing that is different with my overtime than most companies is that we have a minimum amount of overtime that we get. So if my boss calls me and tells me to check my email and it takes me 2 minutes, I get paid 2 hours and 40 minutes of overtime. That is the minimum amount we can get paid to accomplish any work-related task. With that being said, if I get called down to South Bend for an emergency and that by the time I leave my house and go to that call and it takes 10 hours, I still am only getting 10 hours. Like that 2 hours and 40 minutes is not an addition to, it's just a minimum amount.
Okay, I get that. Where's Asher go to school?
Our World, St. Mark's.
All right. And what days of the week is he there?
He is there on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
And do you know how much it costs for him to attend there?
I've seen the number. I don't have it memorized, no.
Okay. Do you pay anything towards that tuition?
I thought it was a factor into the child support amount, but
Okay. You said you and Meg started dating in 2018, correct?
that's correct.
And you moved in together in January, or sorry, in 2018?
Honestly, I don't recall. I know there was, a period where we dated, a period where I would spend some nights there, some nights go home, and then it was finally like, are you staying here or are you not? And I don't remember what that date is, honestly.
Was it 18, 19? Do you remember?
Again, I honestly don't know.
Okay. Did you pay any bills, rent, utilities, or anything from 2018 to June of 2020? Associated with that residence?
June of 18?
I just said 18.
I-
July of 18.
So no, I didn't pay anything from July of 18 to whatever, till June of,
2020.
correct. For utilities and rent, no.
Okay. You think the reason for the breakup of you and Meg's relationship was solely because she was mad that you didn't have joint accounts?
That was our very last conversation, yes. And that was all our last conversation revolved around, yes.
Okay. In June of 2020 to December of 2022, at any point were you laid off?
June of 2020,
Yep. To December of 2022.
at any point was I laid off?
Yeah.
Likely, yes.
And do you recall when?
It would have been sometime in the winter. That's when all the layoffs happened. So sometime during the winter season.
Okay. Do you know how long you were laid off?
If I had to guess, 4 months, but that's kind of a month.
Did you get unemployment during that time?
I did for a short period of time.
Okay. And you still paid 100% of the rent and 100% of the utilities when you were laid off?
I did not. I think that's also why I said that it resulted in 26 out of 31 possible payments during that time period. So it would account for those 5 months probably is not included in that.
Okay. Are you aware of how many?
Ms. Basil, let me interrupt you. It's now 4:45 and we have to have staff out of the building and so we're gonna have to, at this point, adjourn until next Tuesday. And we'll come back on the 7th and continue at that time. So you're free to go. Have a good day and till we see you next.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We'll close it.
Finally. Thank you so much for putting up with that with me, you guys. I really appreciate it. We will do members only later tonight. Keep an eye out. I don't know exactly when. I have to do a few things first. Yeah, next Tuesday. Look forward to it. Anyways, reminder that I love you. I'm proud of you, and I will see you in the next video. The judge was over it. Part 4 is available on Tuesday once it happens. Love you guys.